Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is Cee, Certified Brewhead.
And I am Nathan from NathanDoesBeer.
And welcome to episode 164 of Beer Out the Shit, the podcast. Nathaniel, the long-awaited return this evening.
Yes, I'm excited.
The first time we did this pod was about 2 years ago. I remember it was cold. I think it was about this time of year.
It would have been, I think it would have been into March at that point, but pretty close.
Around this time. And this one is our number one watched, or the first time this gentleman was on the pod is our most watched video podcast of all time, which is spectacular. So we have a lot to live up to. This brewery obviously is one of our faves of all time. We can't say enough good things about it. And this pod is going to be different to the last one because we have a whole bunch of different styles that weren't packaged a couple years ago. So this is very, very cool. With that, guys, please welcome Uncle Troy Baxter, a Badlands brewing. Old fella in the welcome, Troy. First and foremost, good to see your face, bro.
Thanks for having me on, guys. That was quite an intro. Thank you. Thank you for that very kind intro. Hopefully we can put another good pod together here after the last one as well that we most recently did.
Yes. Yeah, man. That's wicked to have you back on. So we did the one in 2022, and that was the big one on both on audio and video, but still the biggest on video. Like, I imagine you don't do these too often, so people were very excited to hear you talk about your products.
I mean, like we really haven't done one since. Well, we did the one with you about like the technical pod like a month ago.
Yes.
But before that, the last one was with you guys as well. We really don't do a ton of podcasts in general. But yeah, no, I mean, 2 years have gone by, so there's going to be all kinds of things I'm sure that we can find to talk about here, even after we just did a technical pod, because we didn't really talk. We talked a little bit about us, but mostly we talked about industry-wide stuff. So this will get into the nitty-gritty of, I don't know, just what we've been up to at Badlands, I guess.
Yeah, that's what we want to focus on, the products themselves. Oh, I had someone ask me a question. I'll find it in the meantime that they wanted to ask you about the process and stuff, so I'll find that.
I just had that pulled up.
Oh, you did? Oh, even better. Thank you, because I forgot. I sent it to Nate. So we got questions from the audience there already. But yeah, so people who want to listen. So Troy was referring to episode 160. So that was the technical pod we referred to it as, where we were, well, Troy, Tiffany, and I were talking about the cost of brewing craft beer, which is the title of the episode, and really breaking down like the actual economics of of what malt has cost over the years and hops, and the whole, like, Troy was giving us an economics lesson here, like CPI and like all this crazy stuff. It was really helpful and really useful, and I feel like that is the type of pods that we really enjoyed doing, but we wanted to separate that from this one to talk about the business. And for those interested, the original one was episode 93 on this same series. So with that, we're going to start off. Last time we did two. Oh, so the first one, God, was lit. It was so good. Yeah, we had we had a lot of alcohol. I think we had 2 singles and 2 doubles, and nary a drop was left. And obviously that was my beer of the year. The Select Citra was the first one that we did, which was just such a brilliant beer, and we can talk about that series and stuff as well. But we're starting off with something different tonight. The Just was canned yesterday. Came out today.
It was, yeah. We finished this at the end of, I don't know, the afternoon or whatever. Yesterday we got this canned up just in time. In time. CS Pills. I'm excited. I'm very thirsty, so this will be a great option for it.
Yes.
And Nate has a 2023, just to note. He has last year's one.
That's right.
Cool. I'm actually interested to see how it's holding up after probably close to a year.
Curious to see, too.
Because it's been in the can for quite a while. It's always fun to see the longevity of our beers when they're well in excess of what I would expect someone to drink them in.
Yeah, this is not typical.
Not at all. I just want to pour. Oh, you know what? I forgot the camera, so I can't take a photo. So you guys can start drinking, because I texted Tiff to bring the camera down, and I have to get it with a nice, pretty head. So what does CS stand for?
So it's not complicated at all. It stands for Czech style.
That makes complete sense.
It is our Czech style Pilsner. Like just a nod to that brewing tradition. So it's a super, super simple recipe. It's arguably my favorite lager that we make, mostly because I like Saaz hops, and that's all that's in this is just a bunch of Saaz. So it's Bohemian floor malted pills and Saaz hops. We don't do any type of decoction or anything like that on it. Okay. It is just a single infusion mash. But, we're able to kind of coax out a decent amount of character. I mean, technically, I guess there is like a one-stage step mash. But I don't consider it a real step mash because we don't have a rest or anything with it. So I do consider it technically it is really just a single infusion with a mash out. Right. It's just a super simple recipe. It's got like a bit of body to it, but it's still super low ABV, 4.4%.
Yeah.
It has like a decent hop presence. We do kind of not quite as hard as we kind of go with Badlands pills, where we had like a whirlpool hop charge equivalent to that of our IPAs, but this one does still have like 2/3 the amount, roughly speaking, and then like a decent bittering charge as well, so that we can like I said, we want it to be like a Czech style Pilsner, so there's a decent bitterness and a decent hop character on the back end. But yeah, it is one that I look forward to making pretty much every year, and it is one that for sure it's like every 12 months pretty much it'll come out, just because I like having it around. And the can is really pretty. I really like this red our artist chose. It's very bright and punchy.
Straightforward. It's and it's kind of cool because super clean. And your other one is the Badlands pills that we had on the other pod, so that's like all white, I guess, with the black writing. So this is kind of like a similar aesthetic, where it's like your other cans are as we'll see with one of the hazes we're doing tonight, like they're a real design as opposed to these. So it's kind of cool. It differentiates it easy. Thank you so much.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, we keep our lagers in this same category where they're very like stripped back as much as possible, sort of because that's what the lagers are for us. They're very simple beers, and I wanted them to stand out from the rest of the lineup and look very, very like starkly different. You can very much just look at it and be like, that's not going to be an IPA when you grab it out of your fridge. We do have another one that's called GSP. It's a German style pils. It has like a tiny like piece of art on it, but it's in the same general realm where it's just really, really simple and stripped back.
Gotcha.
I can't remember if Ontario Pils is one that you've made more than once, but I remember that one is like the bright yellow label with the
exactly.
like the black writing, right?
Good memory.
Yeah, it'll probably be back sometime in the either kind of like summer or fall. But yeah, we make that one pretty much every year. Same reason. I'm just like, I like having it around. It's cool to be able to work with all Ontario ingredients. The beer's changed a ton over the years because we keep getting different ingredients from different suppliers. So it's quite different every year. But it is fun to make. It'll probably be, like I said, probably 2 lagers, maybe 3 lagers from now. We'll make that one again, because every year we also make a Chelt lager, which is named after where we're located, which is called Cheltenham. And we have it released for Chelt Day, which is roughly in July. So that one has to come out for that every year, just because that's what it's named after. It would be silly not to.
No.
Yeah.
Is that the one we had, Nate, when we went in, or like, I think it was Labor Day 2022?
Oh, this is the kind of thing that you would generally expect me to remember, but I actually don't.
That's okay.
No, I have no idea what would be out around then. We've been making it at least 2 or 3 years, so it's possible.
I thought it was this one. That's what I said to you. I was like, oh yeah, we had this then, but like I think I'm mistaken on that.
This one is like the Czech style pils, or like the many variants that we've made of it, is some of the like oldest beers that we've brewed, actually. Like the first time I brewed a Czech style pils would have been in, I think, 2017. So like I've done like tons of different variations. We've used like Kazbek hops. Some of the other like lesser known Czech hops we've mixed in. We've gone through like a bunch of different Czech malts just for fun. But we kind of came back to settling on this, where it's just Saaz and Bohemian floor malted pils, and it's just for me, it's just, I don't know, it's always just hit a little bit better than kind of all the other variations. And Saaz is honestly I love IPA hops, don't get me wrong, but Saaz is arguably one of my favorite hops, even among like those much punchier hops. Saaz is just such a gorgeous hop.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, this is great, man. This is like, I love that it's that full Czech style with that 4.4, like, but it's got tons of body, a real nice like rounded malt profile with kind of that honey little mild sweetness in there.
You got it.
A little bit of that kind of peppery, spicy sort of thing from the SARS.
Yep.
Super crushable though. It's beautiful and it works really great. Like, I mean, being around this time every year when it does drop, is that pretty average?
Roughly speaking, it kind of depends on when we need the beer, to be honest. Just, like in the we try to line up like we're never going to run out of lagers the way we always try to line it up. So it depends. If we had like a slower February, maybe it would have come out like a month later or something like that. But generally speaking, we do try to get it out kind of sort of in the same time of year. But it also depends. Like I almost brewed something different just because I was in the mood for something else for a bit, and then I changed my mind and I was like, yo, you know what we need? We need a check style. It's been too long. But yeah, I reserve the right to change things at the last minute if I feel like it. So
damn right you do.
Yeah, that's it. It's like it kind of just depends on what I was in the mood for, and I was definitely craving having a Czech Pils around after the last couple of beers we did were more kind of like German-ish oriented in the way they're constructed and produced. So yeah, I think it was just time to have a Czech style one because Czech Lager is kind of like a German oriented one, GSP's or a German one. Badlands Pils is kind of like more like a German style. Ontario Pils is not either, and then Czech style is obviously not either as well. But we had done like two of those kind of back to back, so I think it was time to really break it up with something a little different, and that's why we want to Czech in the end.
That makes sense. I like that. It's a perfect fit to the lineup. I do like that you got that. Obviously, you're an IPA factory as your slogan is, but it's cool that you have, like you said, you try and basically keep a Pils on as much as possible, which is
since we started making Pils, we've never run out. So
amazing.
That was
the
goal. Yeah, that was the goal.
Nice.
When we were gonna start it, I never wanted to run out of it.
That's great.
So when we committed to basically starting the lager program for realsies, because we had started it like 3 separate times on the small system, and then it was like, oh well, we need those tanks for IPA, so we're gonna stop doing this. And then when we got to the big system, the tanks, like we just couldn't afford to have more tanks than we did, and they were immediately just always full with IPA. So for us to actually be able to add any other styles to the lineup, when we had the big system, we had to actually go and buy more tanks specifically to have excess capacity so that we could produce these things. So one of those tanks was dedicated to for sure always having a lager, which I knew would get us, roughly speaking, like 6 lagers guaranteed a year, which is roughly what we make at this point in time. Is that tank is just like, I look at it in the brewery, I'm like, that's a lager tank. There's nothing that says that on it. It's just the only thing I put in there like 99% of the time. Every now and then, like for our anniversary and stuff, we'll put IPA in there when we just need more brands, basically. But like most of the time, the only thing that goes through that tank is some form of lager. Right. But we are also starting to kind of get to that point now where we're using more of our capacity a little bit more and more. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to go buy another tank to free that one up to truly keep lager in somewhere in our lineup, because we're playing a little bit of musical tanks these days to try to keep lager on, but that's okay. We're making it work still.
I love that. That's hilarious as well. This one, excuse me if you said this, but how long did this one like? Is it like 6 weeks, 8 weeks? Like what's the?
It was a 6 week.
6 week.
So okay. Pretty much all of our lagers, the quickest we'll ever get them out is about 6 weeks.
Okay.
So it'll be like our target for fermentation is usually like 10 to 14 days, have it all wrapped up. And then we start like a very slow, gradual crash, basically 2 degrees per day till we get to freezing. We also, at the end of fermentation, usually try to trap up a little bit of pressure so that we can kind of get just a little bit of carbonation naturally. I'll be honest, we never get all of it. We don't have a spunding valve or anything. We just try to get some. Usually we get like 2 volumes and then we'll just top it up. Right. But that little bit is kind of nice. It also leaves a bit, like I find a bit of like a touch of like sulfur for a bit, which I also generally prefer in our beers anyways. But we never really let a lager come out unless it's lagered for like at least 4 weeks, and that would be like pushing it in the summer when we're just like, okay, this has to go out. Yeah. Exactly. But usually we'll give it 6 is kind of ideal. That's why we can kind of do 6 a year is it takes about 2 months to make them. So throughout 12 months, we can typically put out 6 with that schedule. Gotcha. This one was 7 weeks, I think. So I think it lagered for 5.
7. Okay.
Because I need, honestly, like I just needed a lager this week. It's like I could have let it go to next week, but right now we have 12 cans of Badlands Pills left in the fridge. And I was like, cool, like we need something. So.
Yeah.
Have people become like started to expect a crispy now, like since you introduced them?
Yeah. Some people for sure. I mean, like without a doubt, we're still not like more people than not come to get IPA from us without a doubt, particularly in package format. So when it's like cans to go, it is primarily still hoppy beer, but there are a ton of people that do come and they know there's going to be a lager on, and that's the only thing they drink.
Gotcha.
And it's not an insignificant number of people at this point. Like there's, someone who may go for like a bike ride or like go play some like disc golf or something. And then they'll come, like maybe not every week, but like every couple weeks or something. They're like, I'm going to have, the house burger with fries and a Badlands Pills. I'm going to also prepay for a second Pills. And like, I'm just going to come up, give you my glass and like fill it.
Fill it right up.
And just like they always want, like 2 Pills. Like that's like, they don't drink the IPA. Like they've tried it, but it's like, it's just, nope. It's all
right. That's all they do. Wow.
That's it. And like
that's
doing this for years.
That's the post bike ride move right there.
Yeah,
that's it. They're just thirsty, and they're like, I need this really crushable 4% beer, and like I'm here to basically like eat, hydrate poorly, and get out of here.
That's fucking amazing.
Maybe hydrate a little better than with like an 8% double IPA.
Yeah, no, I mean they're scales of poor, but 8% double IPA. Hydration doesn't go with that.
No,
not so much. Not so much at all. I don't know. It's really cool though. I feel like that's like a what's the word? Like a cool growth, I guess, or cool trajectory for the business that's known and always has been known for the haze, and then to be able to have that sort of crisp to the point where they're really fucking good, and people come there just for that and don't drink that. I think that must be like almost like fascinating for you, or just cool to be like, hey, you're coming here for the other stuff, not what we're known for.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's great. Like at the end of the day, we only add stuff to our lineup when we're ready to produce it properly. So when we do add stuff to our lineup, I do expect that people that are looking for that will be hopefully happy with it because I'm happy with it.
Right.
And the truth is, like, lager is one of my favorite styles. Like, I don't like it more than IPA. Like, if I had to choose one style, I would still choose IPA over brewing lager, but like I genuinely enjoy brewing every style of beer, and I love drinking lager like a lot, particularly in the summer. Like I said, the reason like I'm brewing this particular beer is I was like, I just wanted it. Like I wanted it in my fridge, and like I've been making lagers for years. Like a lot of people don't know that. I've said it on other podcasts before too, but like I think it was like that 7th or 8th beer we released when we opened our brewery was a lager. Huh. It was like 4 of the first 20 beers we produced were lagers, just because like I do like them. I wanted it to be part of our lineup early on, but like we literally just couldn't make it happen without crushing basically IPA demand, which just felt incorrect to do.
Yeah.
Because people come to us, like at the end of the day, like if people came to us and we were sold out of all our IPA and you're like, oh, here's a lager, like that would suck. Yeah. People honestly are not traveling out here for lager, really. Like they're not making a trek from and wide for that. So we have to make sure that we're always effectively doing what we're known for and making sure that that is being properly addressed before we can address some of these other things. And then hopefully still on those other things, be able to build an audience in one way or another. And lager is one of those ones where I know it's more of like an on-site experience. Like we don't sell anywhere near the throughput of cans as we do hoppy beer. Like it's not that type of product, honestly. But our draft sales of lager on-site are great. So having that as that option it's been honestly amazing for having, a more like casual consumer that wants to hang around a little longer, or like that, whatever person who comes with a friend, like kind of drags them along, but they drink beer and they're just like, look, I don't really like hoppy beer. Like, do you have a beery beer? And they're like, we do. So like it's been nice to be able to transition people over to something like that, and then sometimes maybe they do come over to the hoppy beer or whatever. But yeah, it's been nice. It genuinely has been nice to be able to have it around the amount that we have had it around. I'll be honest, like I would be more than happy to produce more. Like it's a fraction of our overall output. I think it might be like 5% of our total volume, maybe. Like it's not a lot. But like I would be more than happy to let it creep up to like 10 if we could sell it. You know what I mean? Like that would be, if we could do like 9 lagers a year, 10 lagers a year. Like I've got other recipes I haven't brewed that I would love to bring into the lineup that I know are not like great sellers. Like a fest beer for us is like we've made it.
Please do a fucking fest beer. Oh my god,
we've done one, and like I love the beer, but they sell really, really poorly because they don't really address. Like when we release them, they don't really address like either side. So like people are like, "Do you have a lager?" You're like, "We have a fest beer." They're like, "I don't know what that is." And you're like, "Wow." It's like a little maltier. Like you try to explain it to them, and usually they're happy with it. But yeah, there's like a weird marketing issue with some styles of lager as well. Whereas like if you're like, I have a Pilsner. Almost any lager drinker's like, yeah, cool, that works for me. So having Pilsner lager has been an easy kind of like move for people, right? Whereas when you start adding slightly more esoteric ones, like I have a recipe that I love. It's a wheat lager, and it just has like a small like component of wheat, but you put something called a wheat lager on a menu and people are pretty confused. So we haven't done it in like 4 years because I'm just like, I'm not ready to properly sell this. So we're just not going to do that right now.
What about like a black lager, Dunkel, like fucking Marzen?
Yeah. Same general idea, right?
Same problem as fest beer?
Yeah. Exactly. Like a Marzen, people are just like, like that consumer I'm talking about where they're like, I just want to have like a beer after, like basically what we've been addressing, where it's like the more kind of like casual consumer that's not really here for like the IPA. Honestly, they're kind of just here because it's either close, they like the space that we've built or whatever. There's something else other than obviously IPA bringing them here. Right. That consumer, that's a bit more of like a struggle for them to come if we're like, hey, by the way, the only lager we have is a Marzen. They're like, I don't know. I don't want that. Like, yeah, maybe they do, but they don't know yet. It's going to take a bit, or like a Dunkel's definitely not going to like address them, right? Despite the fact that Dunkels are pretty delightful, they truly are. It's like a very special thing that you have to like slowly kind of work into your lineup. If you also have to be like really passionate to bring something like that in. Because it's going to take so much work to sell it. Yeah. Because there's a lot of education required to really explain to people what it is, get it in their hands. You're going to have to do a lot of talking to make it happen.
When you did the No Country, the Alsatian pills that you did as the collab with Fairweather, did you have like a similar issue with that one, like explaining that one to people, or did the fact that it has Pilsner in the name, did that make it easier enough to keep it moving?
Yeah, no, the Pilsner thing helped a lot.
Yeah.
People were confused about the Alsatian piece, but because there was Pilsner, it wasn't a big deal. And then when you see it in the glass, it was already pale and clear. Everyone's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I know what this is.
Gotcha.
But yeah, if we had called it like an Alsatian, like lager, even that I think would have been slightly more challenging. Even though like the word lager still gets the same message across. The Pilsner like just specifies a little more.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I could see that.
It's a weird nomenclature thing, but yeah, anyways, we did not have the same issue with that just because it was a pale Pilsner. So it was kind of simple enough for people.
That makes sense. An observation in an attempt to convince you to do a fest beer. Nate and I are massive fans of that. I say, oh shit. Last year, I would say, obviously, like I figured you'd be just like us. I feel like last year was the first time I saw an insane amount of fest beers. I'd never seen that many before.
It seemed like last year, especially in Ontario, everyone and their dog was brewing a fest beer. Most of the pods that we did between October and November, almost all of them started with a fest beer. It was wild.
Yeah,
it was unexpected.
I believe it.
Yeah,
I saw so many.
So
maybe we were just a bit early.
Does it mean? Yeah, I think you might have been a little early because previous to that, there was I swear to God, even 2022, it was a fraction of 2023. I wonder if that means this is like whatever, but like I wonder if it just means that there's one or two things: either the market wants them, or the brewers are like, "Fuck it, we're doing it. I want to drink this goddamn stuff," you know.
Yeah, no, I honestly think probably it's the brewers more than the market, but
probably, yeah.
I hope I'm wrong. You know, like I hope that those sold well for people. Like for us, like I said, it was a bit of a slog to sell through it. Yeah. We got through it, but I think it was probably the slowest selling lager that we've ever like released, honestly. But it had a great shelf life and stuff. Like it was great.
They last forever.
That's the thing. Like they drank really, really well for a long time, and like. This year, I was considering doing another one. Like, we'll see how it looks kind of coming up in the fall, whether we got the space for it. Exactly. Across those fingers.
We'll be watching.
You never know. You never know.
And speaking of shelf life.
Yes, I was about to ask.
Yeah, so at a year in, I'll tell you, this is tasting pretty good. It's
good.
It's not bad at all. Like I think the sweetness is a little bit more pronounced than it would be fresh. I'm surprised that there's quite a bit of hop character to it still. Like
cool.
like the spicy Saz notes are still coming through, quite strong. It's still got like that sharpness to it. Cool. The only thing that I can place as maybe a little bit showing its age is that like there is a little bit of a tinny kind of flavor coming through to it as well, which I doubt I would be tasting if it was fresh. But like other than that, I am still very much enjoying this.
Sweet. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, the sweetness thing makes sense, right? The hop bitterness and everything fades, but still, the fact that it's a drinkable beer that old is always great news.
Yeah. I found that for some reason I usually buy a lot of like Crispies and like I'll keep them in my cellar, which is I would argue around room temperature, maybe a little less.
Yep.
And I find that the longer and I'm talking like really great producers of Crispies. If I've got a few extras and they sit there, and then if they're not in the fridge, they'll tend to get like cloudy or something. I don't know if that is just like something strange about my particular environment or something, but I noticed that they, like typically beers that I know would be just read a book through start to get a little cloudy, and I always wondered if that was from just the way that it was stored, which is. Once again, just not moved or anything, just sort of stuck there. But I don't always notice a big flavor drop or anything. That's why you're kind of like it's easy to be like, oh, I'll get to that, you know, and because it's not quite a stout or anything, but he's not gonna die, and they hold up all right. Yeah, man, it's sick. I really love that you've done this. I feel like it's like. Obviously, people come to you primarily for the IPAs, as you've said, but it's just like a cool way to round out the product line and to give people a different experience at the brewery. Like I felt like when we went, the first thing, all right, like we got the food too, and we were like, all right, let's get the Crispies first, and then get into the other stuff. So it's like it's dope, man. And obviously tonight we're drinking some total other things. If you didn't say when was you did the Crispies essentially from the beginning, it's been the whole time.
Yeah. The whole time, exactly. The first time we would have done them is 2017 for sure.
Okay. Then when we did the last pod, were you doing him that year, like regularly? Like
no. We took almost a full 2 years off of making any style other than hoppy beers. And it was like from sometime in like 2019 to 2021, roughly, somewhere in that range, we only made hoppy beer. And there's a couple of reasons for it. One was pandemic. So we really didn't have the flexibility because so the way that it used to work is like we didn't have a cold room for like 4 years or whatever.
Wow.
Because it's just we had one fridge and we needed to fill it and sell it the same day. And if we couldn't, then we're kind of fucked because we had no more room. So we really we could afford to dedicate like a tiny amount of space to something like Crispies that would take, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks to sell. But during the pandemic, everything went into bottles all of a sudden. So we no longer had, that like 30 liters of IPA that was going to go on draft or 60 liters or whatever amount we needed that would free up the space in the fridge for us to do that. So because we were just doing everything in bottles. It was just like, look, we can't do anything other than hoppy beers at this point. Right. So we stopped making them completely. And then, I mean, you guys were there for the pandemic. It went on a little longer than we thought it was going to go.
A touch.
So all of a sudden, a couple years had passed, and we had only brewed hoppy beer. And in that time frame, we had also moved from a 1-barrel system to a 15-barrel system. And like I said, when we got to that 15-barrel system, we only had enough tanks to fill IPA with. So for us to finally basically be able to add it back, like I said, I didn't want to add it back and then have it be a spotty like product availability. The same way that like these days, like we don't run out of IPA. We will always have IPA. It might not be the exact one you wanted. It's not going to be the same one as last week, but like you can come here and you will get hoppy beer. We have not run out of hoppy beer once. We've been close, but we've never actually fully run out of hoppy beer. You will always get at least one, probably more than that. But same deal with the lager program. I was like, I want to make sure that if we're adding lager to our lineup, you can come here and it'll be on draft and you can walk away with a can and we will not run out of it. But to do that, we did have to add some tanks. So it was also just like, we were pandemic brewing. That went on longer than we expected. Then we scaled up, didn't have enough capacity to add them. So then it was like, all right, now we got to friggin' install the infrastructure. That took a while. So I think it was like June 2021, maybe we got the tanks in, and then maybe, in August or something. I'm just kind of guessing on the time frame. So probably like August, September of that year, roughly, we probably would have released our first one. So it may have been actually slightly more than 2 years, like just making hoppy beer. But
right.
But since then, like I said, we've been able to chug out some lagers, and then the next kind of like major thing that we wanted to add was stouts, and then mixed firm, which we're going to drink a little bit of as well tonight. Those programs are not like, there's a reason they exist in a different category. The next beer we're going to drink is Saison Mauv. We even released it under a different brand for a relatively specific reason, and it's that we have no specific like release schedule for anything in that program. We just have barrels filled with it, and we release them when they're ready. So far, we only have one beer that's come out under that program. We've got 2 more in tanks / 1 in bottle, I guess. And we're just basically sitting on them, waiting, letting them do their thing. And then if and when they're ready, then they'll come out. If not, then they just won't ever come out. So it's a very different like project that I've wanted to do for a while. And it was never intended to really be a profit, making venture. We all know mixed firm's a rough go. So it was just one of those things. Yeah. It was just one of those things that, I've been making mixed firm as long as I've been making beer. That's what I did a lot as a home brewer, in addition to making IPA. So I just wanted to make sure that I had some outlet to still do that in, regardless of whether there's much demand for it.
Right. Is it the alternate brand? I mean, I guess we can crack it in a sec, but the alternate brand I find fascinating is that, so aside from like the expectation that it's going to be regular, was that to sort of like to separate it as well, being that, would it be too hard to put a style like that under Badlands, which is so like deeply known for hoppy beers, even though you've done the the crispies and you've done the stouts, obviously, which we'll talk about a bit later, but was it just because of that, or was there sort of other like maybe a fit reason?
No, yeah, like it to some extent, yeah, it is a little bit that it's like we're known for a very particular style of beer.
Right.
But like you said, like we do still make other styles of beer under that umbrella. It really is more of a production, like differentiation, I think is probably the better way of putting it.
Okay.
Where like even our stout program, I'm like, it's a way longer trajectory for how we make it, but it's not necessarily that dissimilar to the way we make other beers to some extent. Whereas the Mauvais Terre program is just radically different. We're using tons of different Brett bacteria. It's in a different building. It's all in wood. Everything's bottle conditioned. There's fruit involved. It's just a totally different, like, for maybe lack of a better word, like way of thinking about beer for us, at least, where when we're thinking about like the production process, and even just like the way we construct the recipes, Like it's still bad. Like it's the exact same people behind it. So technically it is still Badlands, which is why it's under the umbrella.
Right.
And actually Mauvais Terre is a play on words. It's Mauvais Terre, so it's Badlands in French. So like, again, it's kind of like a cheeky way of saying that, like, it's the same thing, but it's not.
I like that.
And that's why we put it under a different umbrella, because it is just truly like a different thing. And like, if we were to, for example, not saying we're doing this, but I'm like, if we were, for example, to do like a wine program or like a mead program, I would release it under the Mauvais Terre brand. Because for me, those production processes feel more familiar to what we're doing there than I think really the brewing process that we're releasing under Badlands. There's just like a stark difference between the two for me. And like, I find it exists more in that category where it's like, again, kind of for lack of a better way of putting it, like a natural wine, like let it do its thing. Taste it when it's ready, you bring it out. Like, whereas the rest of it is more of like, it's a little more, I don't want to say dialed, but like it's a lot more focused. Like the Mauvais Terre program is more like organic in that it's just like, let it happen. And like, there is still like levers we pull on to make things happen. But it's without a doubt less intentional than, like our clean beer processes for sure, where I'm like, I do this, I expect this. It doesn't always happen that way, but like, that's what I expect. And when we're thinking Mauvais Terre, I'm like, I do this, we'll see what happens.
Right.
Put some stuff, like mix in some of these different, barrels, breaths, different things, see what happens, feed it slightly different, base wort, see what happens, higher protein contents, different temperatures of like where you're keeping the barrels or different sizes, puncheons or wine barrels. And we just kind of see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, like, again, like it's fine. We just dump it and then move on. But that's why that program is not really designed to make money either. It's just, It's like a project for funsies.
Just seems like you were saying, a completely different mindset. Whereas like Mauvais Terre seems to be the kind of mindset of you really need to just kind of let the beer tell you when like when it's ready or if it will be ready, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's using different techniques. Like it feels more like homebrewing to some extent too. Like we don't have, like CO2 in that room. Like everything's done with, sugar and yeast, bottle conditioning. Like we just don't really need CO2. Like we're not purging bottles or anything. So it is just a totally different process, a totally different way of thinking about it. And that's why I wanted to break it up. Like I said, we could have easily done it under Badlands, and I don't think anyone would have, whatever, disliked it or liked it, like whatever. Yeah. It was just one of those things that I just felt belonged under a slightly different umbrella, and I'm happy we did it. And if we ever add to that umbrella because we, have the time or desire to do some other things under that umbrella, then great. But truthfully, I don't expect much from Mauvais Terre other than what we're kind of currently doing, which is making beer, and sometimes we'll just be like, hey, it's here.
I like that. Yeah, it's interesting. As you're sort of talking about this, like it feels like, as sort of Nate was just saying, like it's ideologically different, so that makes sense to separate it. And it got me wondering, like, based on the passion that people have for the Badlands brand, I wonder that even in a market where, as you were saying, Troy, that farmhouse right now is just not fucking moving. We've seen like terrible things like Stillfields closing their doors. Yeah. And I've heard even like Jester King isn't killing it. And like a bunch of the big West Coast, producers of this type of style, farmhouse, sours and all that type of stuff, are having a bit of trouble. I wonder if the weight the Badlands name carries would change the way it's perceived. But at the same token, it'd be probably, I imagine, the one we're about to drink, is it out? Like it's been released?
Yeah, so it's sold out. So this is just what I had left. Like I kept for ourselves. Like we kept, I don't know, maybe 30 bottles type thing. It's kind of like what I would consider like our house, roughly speaking, like farmhouse saison. And I just kept some so that we could see how it aged in time and whatever. Gotcha. So it's actually been in the bottle now for quite a while. I don't remember. It came out in August. So
in August. Oh, okay. And so did you promote it through the Badlands channels?
Yep. Yeah. So we released it for our anniversary. It was the way that we kind of announced, like, hey, by the way, we have this sub brand. We're turning 6. By the way, there's Mauvais Terre over here. And that's probably the way that realistically we're going to continue to release like these beers is there'll be like event style drops, or like for a select event. If I'm not saying that's happening, by the way, I'm like, if one's ready, maybe that's when we would release it, because it does get just like slightly better, obviously like attention when it's released like that. But if there's one ready, like we'll just release it, and if it takes like a year to sell it, that's fine. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Not a problem.
Yeah,
How did people respond and react to that beer? Particularly, I wanted to come. I was in fucking New England that week, but how was the response from the typical patrons who come through? For big anniversaries and stuff.
It was good. No, I mean, I was happy with what people thought of it. Some people that have never had like that style ever gave it a try, which is cool. Just again, based on the fact that you guys make it, sure, we'll give it a try. And then they actually liked it. And then like some of our regulars and stuff, depending on how long they've been around. Like I've also released some other styles like similar to this early on as well. So if they've been drinking our beer long enough, then they've had not exactly the same thing, because like this was a much smaller. Like I was doing more like clean saison, so it was all in stainless. Now we don't do anything in stainless for like the saison program. It's 100% oak, which is my preference. So it's not exactly the same, but generally speaking, it was well received, I think. And I really like the beer. It's slightly on the higher ABV side than usually I would prefer for the style. I think it's 6.6 if I remember correctly. Whereas usually I'm more like 5.5 to 6, but yeah, it's just the way it kind of ended up. I'd never made one before on the big system, so things were a little more efficient than I expected.
Well, I feel like we've been yapping about this damn beer for a bit.
I was just about to say, yeah.
Let's
grab it. Yeah.
I'm excited.
Quick pause.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to hold it down, guys. It's just me. Just you and me, guys. So I'm going to hold that up and show y'all that beautiful label here. Look at that. Yeah, so Saison Mauv 2023. It's gorgeous, huh? You know what? It's actually pretty cool to see, like, the font is Badlands-esque.
Yeah.
Which makes it a little more distinct. I was just saying, Troy, the font on this is Badlands-esque. Like, it's you can, if you're sort of perceptive, you'd be like, hang on a sec, that's familiar.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the same artist does it as he does all our labels.
Okay.
So same guy does this one. I basically just told him to go like a different direction. You know what I mean? Where you're like, I'm looking for more like a rustic look, but still simple, whatever. But yeah, 100%, it's still the same guy. So I also told him, I'm like, I don't want it to be completely different. Like, I want it to still look, again, Badlands adjacent.
Badlands adjacent is money for this. I like
I love this label. It's like one of my favorite things that he's done. It's really pretty.
Yeah, it's super chill. I actually hadn't like looked at it properly. It's super simple.
Proper glassware for it.
Oh, nice.
Oh shit! Look at that. Is that still available if people want to cop that?
Pretty sure. I'd have to double check our inventory, but I doubt we sold out of it.
Wow, that amazing. So go check them, guys. But this nose is spectacular.
Oh my god!
I feel like I don't drink
these enough. I haven't had one of these in a while.
Okay, so this is gonna be fun. I had a bunch of.
It's probably been a month at least since I've had one.
Hell yeah!
It's tasting great.
Oh man, I don't drink farmhouse very often, and over New Year's Eve and sort of around that time, like Christmas and stuff, I had a bunch, and I was like, why the fuck don't I drink this more?
It's hard to find, but it's also kind of expensive. Like we try to price it aggressively so that we would be able to get it into people's hands. Like I said, I don't really care that much about making that much money on these beers.
Whoa.
So I think we sold this bottle for like $12 maybe, like $13.
Oh,
wow. It was pretty cheap.
That's insane.
That's very, very reasonable.
That's what I thought. Like a 750 mil, like it spent. It's
kind of unheard of.
Oh yeah, it was aggressively priced, but on purpose. Like it spent 22 months in oak. So it was like almost 2 years, over 2 years, because it spent 22 months in oak, 2 weeks in stainless, and another, I think we released it at 3 months in the bottle. So it was like a 2 and a bit year process to make the beer. And yeah, I was just like, look, I just want it out there. I don't want anyone to look at the price and be like, I don't know what this is and not want to buy it. So we try to keep it at pretty aggressively priced just so that like that, you know, that customer that drinks our IPA at least gives it a try.
Yeah.
If they don't like it, like that's cool.
That makes a lot of sense. And you certainly can't and you certainly can't fault any breweries that make this style more regularly or even their main focus. If they make it their main focus, when that's the majority of what they're selling is these bottles, particularly if they're 750 ml, you know, you got to expect for their base for their base beer, probably the one that's their bread and butter, to be paying at least $16 a bottle, and definitely could be upwards to 18, 20, even up to 23, you know, depending on how long it's had to age and the different ingredients they've had to add to it. It's not unreasonable.
No, I mean, realistically, this beer should have been priced around 16, I think.
But that's what I thought you were going to say.
No, like I said, I don't really care a ton about making money on this. Like our fruited versions of stuff, like we have a apricot, as long as it like these turn out, but an apricot and cherry should be forthcoming at some point. Those will have to cost more just because the fruit is expensive. But again, we're trying to keep some of these early releases like in the most reasonable-ish realm that we can, just because I want to be able to actually have people want to buy them and not be unsure what they're getting. Just be like, just try it, all right? It's only $12. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, seriously, for double the amount of almost double of like a tall can, like that's very reasonable for something that's been in oak for 2 years. That's kind of crazy.
No, it was, I mean, like I said, that's one of those ones where we don't, like, yes, I can sit down and at a spreadsheet and decide what I want to charge, but then sometimes we're just like, are we trying to do something else other than just make money on this? And then you kind of adjust your expectations or price point based on what your actual goals are. And our goal for this was getting it into people's hands. So the actual, like, how much money are we going to make on it matters a little bit less than hopefully just making the program slightly more viable and finding an audience a little bit quicker. At least that's the goal. We'll see how it works out, but that was the plan at least.
I love it, man. It's a wicked concept. I feel like this is great, by the way. So the actual tasting notes, like, it's got it's super fascinating. It is. You can definitely tell, like you mentioned with the ABV, it's a punchier, bigger beer.
It is, yeah.
But it's incredibly smooth and complex. I'm getting a bunch of like orange marmalade-y type of thing going on there with tons of funky Brett, a bit of like apple pear maybe.
Absolutely, yeah. It's almost got like a cider vibe to it as it's aged.
Yeah.
There's like a bunch of
with the bit of more pronounced sweetness coming through this, that definitely does give it more of a cider vibe.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting.
Yeah, and that for me is like the ABV kind of gives it more sweetness.
Gotcha.
Like I said, this was intended to be about almost 1% lower. So then we had the beer design from like a water profile and grist to be like soft, like. As you guys know, I like really full, soft beer, and this is no exception in this style. So when the ABV kicked up, it kind of gives it a little more fullness and softness and perceived sweetness from the alcohol. So it ends up drinking like a bigger, almost like I said, like bordering on like a cidery-ish note kind of on the swallow, but not to a detriment, really. Like I said, it wasn't really – this isn't exactly the way I drew up this beer to turn out. But I'm not mad at it at all, which is why it's in existence.
Yeah, it's great. This is fantastic, and this makes me just like I did a couple months ago, drinking this type of stuff, and I'm like, the fuck am I doing? Get more into this, and this is great. Like it's such like just like the three of us probably drink a lot of the same stuff: Crispies, haze, stouts. You know, maybe some smoothies here and there, and it's like that's the vast majority of the drink intake, which is fun, and I love it, and that's why we all do it. But it's really nice sometimes to be like I was about to say forced. It's not forced. It's just like, hey, we're doing a pod. We're drinking this. I was really glad when you said to us that you were going to switch it up from last time where we had 4 fucking haze bombs and we were just lit, which was lit. We're going to get lit now, don't worry. But the fact that we got like, there. Yeah, we'll get there. Don't worry. Just a different way. And it's like, I don't know, man. It's just like, it's really nice. And I feel like sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but I like almost need an excuse to break out of my zone. If you look at my fridge, I'm sure just like both of you, it's all very mostly 1-2 dimensional type of thing. So getting into something like this is refreshing, and it's like it brightens up the palate a little bit and brings something new into the drinking thing. So I appreciate this on that level over and above the actual quality of the product as well. So it's just sick, man. It's very cool.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, I like seeing, one of my favorite things to do, like when I go to other breweries, I'll almost never get the IPA first. I will get the thing on the menu that looks like it shouldn't be there, because you're like, if some brewer cares enough to make that thing that clearly shouldn't be there, then that's what I should try.
That's smart.
Like that's probably what they're passionate about. It's like, why do you have like, I don't know, like something really kind of like eccentric that you know is not going to be a good seller. I'm like, that's what I'm getting. Oh, a smoked goza. That makes there's no reason that you should be making that, because it's clearly not going to be like a flagship or anything like that. I'm like, well, I'm not even that big a fan of smoked beer, but I'm having that.
Let's give it a crack. I see what you mean. There's like 9 IPAs, 2 Pilsners, and a fucking brown ale, and you're like, all right.
You're like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Brown ale it is.
I like that.
They probably care a lot about the brown ale.
Yeah, that's dope. I never thought of it that way. I always go the crispy to start, but I think that's a really fun approach, because you get to know like the quirks of that brewery off the rip and kind of what they're trying to do.
If you know the person, then it's a little bit different. But I'm talking more like breweries where I'm like, I don't know anything like personal about them, right?
Right, you're just rocking up.
But that's it. You're just walking up, ordering something, and that's almost always what I'll do. Is I'll be like, that makes no sense. I'll have that. And then once you do that, see how it tastes or whatever, then you go kind of do, okay, let's try the crispy, then try the IPA, kind of go the other way. But I always try to pick the one of these things is not like the other beer off the lineup.
I fucking love that, dude. I'm going to keep that in mind for the next time I go somewhere new. Like,
think about it. Most menus will have one where you're like, what the?
What's up?
That's it. And then it does also kind of help, going back to what you were saying about like just stepping a little bit out, kind of freshen the palate. It helps to some extent do that too, especially if you're going to do like 2 or 3 breweries in a day or something like that. If you do that at every single brewery, it's like that usually will break it up quite a lot too, because you'll be like, I got a random red ale, got a random brown ale. This guy had a double smoked like Dunkel. Don't know why that exists, but I have to try it.
Absolutely. No, it's dope, man. That's really fun. That's a really fun approach. Just like this beer, man. This is really cool, and it's like exciting to hear that that it was responded to really well. I think that's like maybe like the hardest part as well, because maybe there's 2 ways it could have gone. I guess people could have been like, Badlands made it, it's going to be amazing, or I'm here for the fucking hops, bro. What is this? Like, it could have gone either way, so it's very cool to hear that people were into it. And even I just checked it on Untapped there, and I see a bunch of everything super positive. There was some of them with reviews completely written in French, because the Quebec folks love you guys, and I know that this is something.
The Quebec folks also like this style more, so
they sure do. And that's why we don't see as much of it here, and it kind of makes me think that a lot of the breweries that I'm seeing, like maybe either ones who do this close to exclusively are struggling here, or if not wrapping things up, and the ones in Quebec are kind of cruising because it's a bit more of the norm out there.
There's a much stronger market for mixed ferm in Quebec. Like like most breweries in Quebec, I would say, have some component of mixed ferm. And if not most, then like a strong percentage of them.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Like if I were to just think of like almost any brewery I've been to, almost all of them will have something in this realm at some point in their lineup throughout the year. And that's just like almost expected. Not all of them, but like most. Let's say over 50%. Whereas in Ontario, it's completely different, where it's like most very definitely do not, and it's well over 50% will not have mixed ferm in their lineup.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, and that was something to get used to around here. Not that I drank it a lot there, but I feel like I was just always encountering it. It was just always around, and then here, I'm like, when I see it, I'm like, oh shit, that's here. I probably even go as far as to say it still exists. Yeah, I feel like because I go to Duran mostly, aside from breweries, there's not even as many Imperial Stout, like barrel-aged stouts, or even like barley wines and things like that out here in comparison to Quebec, I would probably say.
Totally.
I
would agree for sure.
Yeah? Okay.
I would say so. Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment. I think like the specialty beers generally in Quebec they just sell better for whatever reason. Like, don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of stouts and stuff that get made in Ontario, but like there are seemingly many, many more. Again, from like just from a sheer number and just the number of breweries that also release them seems to be just more overall.
Yeah.
Very different drinking cultures, honestly, between the two provinces.
Yeah, I think there very much is. And that was like, I almost didn't, like Nate's always sort of been on the border there. So you kind of like always jumping between. I was living there when I got into be deeper, I guess, and traveling to Ontario all the time. But it's only living here in Ontario and going back to Quebec like once a year, whatever. That's when I'm noticing the difference now. As far as like wherever I go, if I see some sort of farmhouse or barrel aged thing, I'm like, geez, this is weird. Cool. Like, what's up with this? Like, I'm interested. I feel like the stouts are decent here, but it's from. Sorry, when I say decent, spectacular, I was talking about like the volume. The quality is a fucking one, like world, like god tier shit. But
it's the ones that like, but it's the ones who are really passionate about it. It's that like it's a small subset rather than being something that almost everyone does.
Yes,
absolutely. Like you can't go to most breweries and find like bourbon barrel aged stouts in Ontario. Really,
no, which is a shame.
Truthfully, again, like they don't sell super well. Really, like they sell fine for us. Honest, like they're like we.
Do you get cleaned out?
We sell them. Say again?
Do you get cleaned out when you drop?
No.
No,
like if we release them on like a special event, obviously they'll sell better. Just like any beer, frankly, on a special event typically sells better. But when this BBA Tranilla that we're gonna have later today here, like I think we released that maybe like 3 weeks ago, and we still have, I don't know, maybe like 70 bottles left, type thing.
Okay, how many bottles is in a drop?
It depends. This one was just under 400, like 300 and 80, 50, somewhere in that range.
Gotcha.
So like, don't get me wrong, it's an expensive beer. There's a ton of vanilla in it. So it does depend to some extent, but yeah, we typically don't release them and then get cleaned out. There's a demand for probably like 200 bottles right off the top type thing. And then the rest after that, will kind of sell slowly. Again, for that style, doesn't really matter. It can sit, it'll be good for a while. But it just doesn't have the same like quantity throughput that you'll see in other markets.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. I was curious about that because I've said this on here before, and I kind of don't like putting this on blast because I was joking. Actually, you and me and Chris were joking about this at the Badlands tap takeover at Durand after we did the other pod. But like, I kind of treat Durand as my personal cellar that I just haven't bought yet because he's got everything there and it moves so slow, so incredibly slow that I won't even call out some of the stuff that they have, but I'm just like, I've got most of it, but if I want some more of it or if there's some of the other ones that I haven't copped yet, I don't have to stress. Like I always check it every time I go. I'll look at the fridge and I'll turn around, look at the shelf. I'm like, all right, we're still safe. Okay, we good. So,
exactly.
And
it even ends up being my personal cellar by extension, just because of our arrangement.
Exactly. Whenever you're ready, you just say the word. We pull the trigger. It happens, and it's interesting. It's actually. I remember somebody was listening to the pod, and I mentioned it. And he was in London, and he drove from London, Ontario down here, and he went and got, he sent me a picture of the hole that he got. He must have spent $350, $400. And he had one of everything of the Barncat bottles and all the Badlands and Third Moon and Willowboard and Counterpart. And it was damn, bro, like you went in. I'm glad it was one dude who did it, so he's like, cool, he got all what he needed. But you know, Chris went and got everything. But it's funny, I guess, like if you really look at the quality of the products that are coming out of here, when you're looking at the top tier stuff, which is the things we were talking about, like it's kind of wild, like that isn't moving faster. Because in Quebec, those beers, like if Bar Canada or Meso or someone drops the BA Stouts or whatever, they're fucking gone, man. Like even Brewski, like anyone who does it, it's out of here. So it's like a little interesting, perhaps, that the how niche it is.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, radically different markets.
Radically, yeah.
The Montreal market versus like the GTA market, top to bottom, very, very different. Both in terms of like producers, consumers, demographics, everything's super, super different there. Like legitimately, like the cost of living, honestly, even in Montreal versus like Toronto it's pretty starkly different. It has gone up, but it is different, right? Where
it is different,
maybe, right? Like there's just so many differences between the two.
Yeah.
And then there's also just like the difference between like there's always been a tighter like appreciation for like local products in Quebec, generally speaking. Ontario has been lagging behind. As a guy who's lived in Ontario his entire life, you
notice it when you go there, probably.
I've always noticed it, right? Because I grew up in Ottawa, so like I went to Quebec relatively often.
Of course.
And you see it like as a kid. I can remember noticing the difference where they had everything from like maple syrup to like cheese. They just cared more about their local producers. And in Ontario, you're like, these big box stores, So like the local producer movement is a little bit newer in the province. So it's almost like a budding and just like part of the economy, whereas in Quebec, it's always just been there. And then the Quebec industry is all like as a province has always been a lot more insular. And protectionist. So to some extent that also, you could argue, harms them to some extent, but it also has allowed them also to keep those producers protected in their own industry. And like the people in Quebec do support those people. So, producers. So it does actually end up still working out for them, but like I said, we're still kind of working on that here in Ontario where I would say like 20 years ago, like a local producer of almost anything was kind of weird or rare.
I can see that. Like so
there's
American.
A lot of it.
Yeah. It is interesting. Yeah, man. The only other place close to Quebec would probably be Vermont. I feel like they really give a fuck. Like the thing that I learned about there was like farm to table. I'd never even heard that until I went to Vermont. And you go to say Farmhouse Tap and Grill in downtown Burlington, and they'll have like, this is where the cheese are from, and they'll have all the different farms, and this is where the beef is from, and the eggs, and like, I was like, what is this? Like it was exceptional. But yeah, Quebec is definitely. I didn't appreciate the extent of it until living here again. But then now, I don't know about you guys, but I proactively go to places that, I go to local butchers and I know all these, like, it's not too far because, like, I guess Hamilton is a small enough city where you don't have to drive 20 minutes and you're in the sticks. And you can go to these farms and the farms have, like, fucking bison and elk and kangaroo and, like, emu and shit. And it's, like, all from local things. It's very, very cool. The only thing is, like you were saying, Troy, with Quebec, it's everywhere, and like you can go to like Couche-Tard and you get fucking cheese curds at the counter of a service station when you're paying for gas. Here, I got to go out of my way to find it. That's the challenge I found, is finding the places and going on this Hamilton subreddit and be like, hey guys, where do you get this?
It still requires effort to some extent to shop local, honestly, in Ontario. Whereas in Quebec, it's just not as hard. Like here, like it is still like if you want to buy all your groceries, let's say from like a food co-op, it's not an option in Ontario, really. No, like you can't do it. You would have to go to 3 different places, and it's kind of annoying. And like I'm kind of one of those weirdos that I still do. I buy all my meat from like a butcher who sources everything locally, and then I'll go do my grocery shopping for like vegetables and fruits and shit somewhere else. Is that annoying? It is. But the meat is so much better that it's genuinely worth it for me. 100%. So I do still make that effort, and it does obviously support local as a result. But like if you go to somewhere, Vermont's a really good example. It's like there's food co-ops fucking everywhere. And the only thing they do at those food co-ops is source everything as locally as possible, and then they bring in whatever they can, seasonally dependent.
Yeah.
And that's just the way that cultures have worked. Ontario's always just, in my opinion, always been a much more like corporate headquarters of Canada, and the powers that be have done a really good job of just making sure that they hold on to their market share.
Yeah,
it's facts. I noticed that when we first went to Vermont, and we had our friend Giles, we had him on the podcast. He used to own this place called Hostel Tavaret, which was like a ski hostel at the bottom of one of the mountains, but he had a fire tap list. Like he went and got so I was traded with him. We became really good friends. And when we went there, they were the first time I had medium rare burgers, because you're not allowed to do that here. You can't. It's illegal in Canada, I believe, to actually cook burgers less than well done. There's something to do with the whatever the bacteria.
Yeah, you're not. I was to say you're not supposed to, but
people do it. We gotcha.
Well, so, I mean, you go to the works, they'll give you like a medium burger, but as long as it hits, I forget what the temperature is. It's like 145 or whatever internal temperature. Then
they'll let it slide.
Safe. But anyways, moving on.
That's what they do. So like when I remember the first time we went and we were like, he goes, yeah, do you want a medium rare? We're like, what do you mean? And then we had it, and he was like, yeah, it's from the farm 5 miles down the road, Jim. Just got his cows there. Like they know the name of the farmer who got the cows, and they know where the farm is. And it was putting all this, even at the time living in Montreal, it was like, oh, this is like another level to, because I'm in the city, right? So the city isn't quite like that. You go to somewhere where Vermont, where everything is fucking rural. And it's like, wow, it's so cool how connected it can be. And like, yeah, same thing here. We have to go to this one place to get meat. Then we tried to go to different places to have vegetables. And then you're like, I don't know, it's February. Like, where do we go to get stuff? Like, well, we've only got apples and potatoes. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I got a Fortino's now, which we don't want to do. But there's no choice, because if you want anything,
at some point you just need to get your shit and go home and make food.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
You do what you can. But there's no like full serve local, like I said, food co-op that you can kind of go to really in Ontario at all.
Yeah,
there are some like really good like farm markets and stuff where you can get pretty close. But again, those are far and few between. Like there's not one in every town. So it's just one of the kind of things that differentiates the two or multiple markets. But Ontario in general has just never been the most like we live and breathe local.
Definitely.
Hopefully that does improve in time, but it certainly has, like I said, since I've lived here, which is my whole life, but it has gotten better.
Definitely improved.
I would say so. Yeah.
It feels like as well, like all of that to say, like the type of, we were talking about, I guess, the type of consumers that would consume, say, the farmhouse now, and I wonder if all of that is correlated. I think
it has to be to some extent, right? Like that farmhouse ale, like vernacular kind of calls up that farm to table vibe too.
That's
right?
what I was
Where
thinking.
You're like,
exactly.
Yeah, it's like whatever long age product made unique by this person over here on a farm. So like I think there's definitely something to that. Whether that is the whole reason they sell better or not, who knows? But I mean, I think to some extent, like the price point is high. It's kind of almost sold more like in a wine price point too. So
for
beer drinkers, exactly. So for beer drinkers, it's just a bit of a
reach.
Most of the beer, it is, because like let's be blunt, most beer drinkers are commodity drinkers that want to pay like $3 for a can. Yeah. Like we're talking probably like 90% of like the total beer market, right? So you might be able to move them over to like a $6 pint or whatever, but moving them over to a $20 one is obviously a much bigger ask.
Yeah, no, it's really like it really takes a consumer who is passionate about that specific kind of beer, and like that's not something that you can expect the majority of beer drinkers to do.
No, definitely not. It's a few niches down, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
You're deep in the niche tree unless you're into the mixed firm $20 bottles. You're seeking it out. you like this one particular style a lot, probably from this one producer. You know, you're like a few tiers down at this point.
Yeah. This is like this style is the kind that attracts the type of person that does a themed bottle share with their friends and that's not even joking, but it's a very specific group of people and most of the ones in the same town probably know each other because they're probably the ones each hosting each other for the bottle share.
Absolutely.
I like that themed bottle
the
share.
Same bottle to share.
Like, let's just have one each. Oh, fuck bottle shares, man. They're so dangerous. I don't know if I really miss them. I like sharing beers with people, but if you got a whole bunch, I don't know. I've had some bad. I just puke. I don't know. It doesn't work for me. It just comes right out, and I'm like, okay, so I did all of that to just monster vomit. That's not fun.
It's a case of, I think I'm with I don't know. I think I'm with you on on that, especially when it comes to farmhouse, especially if there's the kind of thing where if it's something particularly complex, and funky and with a lot of acidity, there's only so much of that your stomach can take in one sitting.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And then you're mixing that with some crispy, some haze, some stouts, and blah blah blah, and you don't taste shit. It's like a beer festival. Like, shout out some respect to everyone who enjoys them, but it seems redundant to drink 4 ounces of every beer in a loud environment when you can't, you're just downing stuff. You're not thinking about it.
You have on your 20th one, you're like, I don't even taste this chicken.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's just going down and then coming right back up.
Doesn't even matter what this is. I'm here to be drunk now.
Exactly. It's like a party in the end. I mean, I guess that's kind of fun too. I shouldn't front on them.
That's it. Like, it might not be good for whatever, appreciating the liquid per se, but it's still good for fun.
It is, unless someone, usually in my experience, someone cries, vomits, or fights. It's usually one of the three. And I'm not into any of those things, personally.
Not me either. Not my vibe, but
not my
vibe. Then I don't judge. Just
yeah, exactly. Go over there and do that shit. But this is really cool, man. Like, speaking of the, I feel like this is even though you've been doing this for a while or whatever, and this was the first proper release last year, it's like, it feels like a really cool, fun evolution of the brand. I mean, since we spoke last about Badlands a couple of years ago, this is dope as shit, man. I'm really enjoying this. I'm like holding myself. I'm trying not to crush this whole bottle before we get to the next one, but it's going down so smooth. This is beautiful.
Yeah, I love
truly
this beer.
is.
I really genuinely enjoy drinking it every time I open one. Which is part of the reason I held so many back, so that I had some other ones to drink.
Smart man. Thank you for sharing.
Maybe we'll sell some of them as another release one of these days, or sell or pull, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But no, I mean, it's one of those things where we're at a point now where, if we don't add anything else to our lineup, that's fine. We have enough things in our lineup that I kind of hit all my minimums now, where I'm like, my kind of 3 favorite styles are well covered, and then I also have stout, which I just I love drinking them, but it's not a volume beer for me, whereas I will drink a lot of saison when I get in the mood. So I genuinely drink tons of, when I'm in the mood for a saison, nothing will scratch that itch. So you just kind of have to get it. And I go through phases where I'm just if I don't do this, then I can't enjoy other beers. So I better sort this craving out.
You're pregnant.
Exactly.
I don't know if we've met a single brewer who doesn't have a real soft spot for saison.
I mean, it's such a gorgeous subset of style, right? We all know about brown ales or red ales, and it's you kind of know what it is. It's the red ale has it's a relatively defined space. There's a little wiggle room in there. But under the umbrella of IPA, there's so much room for play. Under the room for lager or pilsner, there's a lot of room for play. And saison arguably has the widest room for play of any style. And I think the reason a lot of brewers like it is it's a dry, drinkable style, and basically it's a blank, do whatever you want with it. It's a blank canvas for you to kind of take in any direction. It doesn't have to be an oak. It doesn't have to have any commercial yeast. It could be spontaneously ferment. It could be so many things that are all enjoyable, which is also important. they're always dry as well. So for brewers, generally drinkable beer ends up being like a winning combo for a brewer. Like you take dry beer that tastes good into a brewer, like probably they're going to find love in there somewhere. I think that's why Saison lands for a lot of like brewers. For me, that's the same thing. Like this beer technically has no sugar in it, but it's like perceptively sweet and drinkable. But it's like dry. Like if I were to put a hydrometer in it, I bet you it's under 0 Plato because of the alcohol content. It makes it actually, anyways, it'll make it go below 0, but it's basically as dry as you can get because everything gets eaten up.
Right.
But that makes it a cool style.
Yeah, man.
Very cool.
And when you just mentioned that I like hearing that there's like, this is probably the style with the most breadth, I guess, as far as like the different things you can do with it. Are there any particular styles under that umbrella? I'm not saying that you are going to do it, but at all, like, are there anything like yo, man, I'd like to try that, like a Flanders Red or like, something like that? Is there anything in this kind of vibe? I know you said, you got the apricot and cherry one potentially on the way, which is fire, because apricot farmhouse.
I do that apricot. Yeah,
apricot or peach is fucking god tier. Yeah. But yeah, is there anything?
We usually go with apricot.
Apricot. It's
good. It's my favorite. Well, not my apricot or cherry are usually my 2 favorite fruits, which is why we did them. But
perfect.
Yeah, hopefully it turns out. We'll see. We'll see shortly. The cherry, we're packaging. Actually, my packaging this week. Okay. Yeah, the cherry one. I hope turns out. So I planted cherry trees like 8 years ago, and we harvested some of those cherries this year, and made a cherry like beer with it out of some of the barrels that we filled like almost 3 years ago, I guess now. It's been sitting on cherries for a while, picked up a ton of color and flavor. It's a little bit more sour than this, obviously, by quite a lot because of the cherries. But anyways, that one I'm like, talk to me in a year. We'll see if it comes out. There's a lot of runway for it still to go wrong. The apricot one, it's in bottles. It's not ready to go, but I think it will get there. And if neither of those beers come out within the next year, then you know that I was unhappy with them.
Good to know.
But no, there is no like particular stuff. Like I love Flanders Reds. Like Bourbon is like they're incredible.
Or
chances of us making one, the chances of us making one of those is like pretty much 0, to be honest, because we would have to make just way too much of it
to make it worthwhile.
Like we would never be able to sell that much of it. So that's why we're basically focused on making like pale, so the same color as this, roughly like a golden sour base is kind of what we think of it as. And then from that, we kind of play with everything after the wort production of a golden sour, so that it's like different, barrels have different things going on. So we have, I'm trying to think how many barrels we have right now. Six barrels in a puncheon. And all of them have different cultures. A puncheon is just a big barrel, basically. So like a barrel's like a wine barrel is like 200 and some. Well, depends on the barrel and what region, but 200-ish, let's call it, liters, and a puncheon's about 500.
Okay.
So it's just like a really big one. So we hopefully, knock on wood, because I haven't actually tried anything from that puncheon yet. Hopefully have what we think will be like arguably our best culture living in that wood. That was actually a puncheon we bought from Barncat, RIP.
That's dope.
Yeah. So when they closed down, we bought some of their stuff, the puncheon being one of them. So we probably killed everything in the wood, but in theory there might be some of their culture left in there too, and some of the other stuff that we threw in there that is our own. So yeah, I'm interested to see what turns out of that, but we're still a bit of a ways off from having a beer from that puncheon. But maybe by 2025 something will come out of there.
Hey, some exciting things in the future. I like that a lot. So then, as far as since the last time we spoke, I guess a couple years, like what would you, because I've been drinking, I guess that was the time when we connected. I had tried your stuff maybe the year before properly. And then when we did the pod, I was just like, oh, this is like god tier shit. I didn't like I'd heard, and I didn't get to experience it really properly until we had the pod, which is actually kind of cool because we get to chat while I'm like, my mind's being blown. And then basically I've sort of been aggressive about getting your stuff ever since. I've Nate and I both are, you know, grabbing your stuff as much as humanly possible. So I've kept up over the last 2 years with what you've been doing, probably a solid 70-80%, I would say. But maybe you could describe, like, has anything specific changed or, you know, grown in that time? I feel like the quality is, I guess you're I know that you've said it, like you're always like 1%ing everything, like, you know, just like little tweaks here and there, and like the Dora series, which is super fun, and you're always fucking around and doing different stuff. And the body is just continually getting softer, as you mentioned before, like that's your jam, and like the soft body is a real, like, the tell that it's Badlands, aside from it's like a character, obviously the yeast that you can tell, but like, what would you say that has, you know, grown and changed and improved, or even gone in a different direction over the last couple of years since we really did the deep dive on the pod?
Yeah, I mean, from an IPA perspective, quite a lot has changed, but at the same time, nothing has, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
You know, like, our recipes from like year one to now are so similar as to be virtually identical, but the outcome is obviously different. So like when we did that pod, we were just starting to kind of get the beer that I kind of wanted out of our brewery, which was good timing for you to start trying the beer. I mean, like, the beer that came out of the new brewery, when we first started, was fine. You know,
when was that, by the way? Remind me.
So we started brewing on the new brewery September 2020.
Okay. So did it take some time to dial it in?
Oh yeah. I mean, like, you got to remember, like, I had never brewed on a commercial system in my life. The biggest brewery I'd ever brewed at was, again, my own, which is 100-liter system. So
right.
And this is like, you know, we got rakes, it's a steam. Like, I didn't know how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I designed it. Like, I did know how to use it. I didn't know how to use it very well. We'll put it that way.
Gotcha.
And like, every single piece of equipment was new to me. Like, our grain mill, I was like, I don't know what these fucking settings are. So I was like, you know, graining or like milling our grain, like checking them in sieves. I'm like, all right, like, it looks like it's a good grind. And then it would go through like 60 feet of like tube, like, it's called the conveyor, that takes it over to our grist hydrator and then drops into the mash tun. But while doing that, because it's like this, I don't know how to describe it. It's like this metal chain, like, spins through it and like conveys it forward. While doing that, it was like smashing up the grain a little more. So like, we were getting just a different crush than we expected. So we had to like mess with our grain mill settings. Then we had to mess with how fast we were graining in and how fast we could get the water in and what our hydration ratios were. It's like, it just took me so fucking long to figure out how to brew on this new system properly. Like, we were making beer right away, obviously, right? I was like, yeah, we're going to mix some grain together with some water and we're going to ferment it. Like, it's going to happen. But, you know, the liquid and grain management took, honestly, like, an embarrassingly long time to be honest. Like, it was a tough period for me, to be honest. I was like right on that edge of like, I'm not ashamed to say it. I was basically depressed. I was just like, I've been working nonstop for like 2 years to build this brewery. Like, just had a kid too, like in October. So I'm like trying to dial in the system in September. A month later, I have my first kid, and like the glycol loop is breaking. I don't know how to use my brewer. I was just like, I don't know how to brew anymore. And it's like the worst possible time to be feeling that feeling, because we're making more beer than ever. And it's just, in my opinion, at that point too, I was like, this is not what I want to be making. And I know, like, a month in, I had like, so maybe we're 8 brews in or something like that. 6, like, I don't know, somewhere in that range, like 6 to 8 brews in. I went back and cracked a bottle from the old system, and I was very upset. I was like, fuck, this beer is so much better than what I'm making on this new system. Oh, it was just like, just a lot better. And that's when I decided to basically, at that point, like just take a new approach to figuring out how to dial this in. And it was just because like we were at that point, you know, like I said, 6 to 8 brews in, the beers were fine. Like they were clean. We were getting the right amount of liquid out. You know, the hop expression was nice, but it wasn't what I wanted. Like we were not getting the big, soft, fluffy body that I wanted consistently. We were not getting what I wanted from the hops every single time. Our fermentations were a little more scattered than I would like them to have been at that time. Again, like we're going from 100-liter tanks to 2,200-liter tanks. Like the yeast was behaving a little different. Our pitch rates needed to change a bit. Our oxygenation needed to go up a little bit. Like there's just so many things that I know now. But back then I was just like, we're just going to, you know, port this over and then like tweak one thing at a time. But at the beginning, it was like one thing at a time wasn't enough. It was like we have to change a lot of shit fast. So after kind of going back and tasting those beers, I tweaked a lot of things, and we got into a place that was what I thought was fine. Where I'm like, all right, I don't hate everything. Like at that point, I wasn't really enjoying my beer, and that's not a good sign. But I was like, I don't hate my beer right now. It's fine. Let's get into the zone that we're currently in, which is the same zone that I took on that one barrel system where I'm like, all right, beer's good. Let's focus on this one thing for the next while till I dial it in. All right. And the first thing I tackled was water, because water just makes such a big difference for everything top to bottom.
Right.
So I just dug into water, and every brewer just like, all right, we need water chemistry on strike water, wort in the tank, finished beer. What are we getting? And then we just check. And for like 3 months, we dialed that in. And then that would take us, honestly, I was probably just getting close to getting that to where I wanted when we did that pod. And then I was like, okay, now let's dial in some new stuff. Like went back and kind of tweaked our grist. So I took the oats up a touch. We took the wheat up a touch. We took the barley down a little bit, because we were going from a small inefficient system to a bigger system. So our grain bill shrank because we were just a much more efficient mash than we were on a small system. So we ended up cutting out, like, trying to think, if we had like ported over exactly what we were doing, we would have been using like 15 to 18% more grain, something like that. So having that much less in your grain bill, like at that scale, we're talking like hundreds of kilos of difference, like 100 kilos.
Dollars.
It's a lot. So cost savings is great, but the problem is we're having like a flavor differential as a result. So malt contributes a ton of minerals. So we had to change I just brought over, I was like, this is what I do with the water. That wasn't working. So I was like, look, we're getting totally different water chemistry. I'm going to add it back. And that's basically the way we tackled it. It was just like one problem at a time, sort it out. So the big difference between what I would say has changed between, 2022 and today is like our consistency, I think, is better than ever. Like I walk into that brewery and I can, like, even if I'm fucking up, I can fix it. Like I've been through the ringer with that bad boy. Yeah. Like I've done, and I fucked up everything at some point at this point, knock on wood. So I do basically know, like, all right, how do I, whoops, I did something bad here. Take a different turn. We're going to get to a point where this beer is still going to be what I want it to be. Here are my corrections. Like there's just a way for me to get there now. But at the beginning, and like to some extent when we did that first pod, I'm like, we were still pretty early on. We were only like a year and a half into brewing on that system. And like I said, I was feeling better about it. Like I was able to, reliably produce wort and release IPAs. But I would say at that time, we were just starting to get to the point where I was happy with the consistency of mouthfeel and hop expression in our beers.
Interesting.
Whereas today, like we modified almost everything at some point just to get to where we are, I guess, technically now, but even where we were at that point last pod. But now, like I said, we're always hitting the pH we want everywhere. We're always getting the right amount of liquid to where we want it to get. Even now when we're like, we're working with ingredients that are, let's call them suboptimal depending on what we receive, I can make them work. That's where we're at now, where I've tried so many things, especially through the Dora series, where I'm just like, I'm just going to fuck around and try something. And you always learn a little bit of something.
I was about to say, is that the learning spot? Is that the learning series where you can fuck around, like you said, and like
it is
take that and apply it to the others?
Absolutely, yeah. And like sometimes you learn how to do something well.
Mm-hmm.
So like Dora 65 is a good example where I was just like, well, technically Dora 65 was 2 doors. So I fucked up.
Drained one, right?
I wanted to like filter on the way to the tank just for fun to get like nothing on the tank but like extremely clear beer. But the filter was far too fine and it just clogged. So like I was like, oh, all right, well, we're not doing that anymore. So I just have to like disconnect everything like as fast as I can, because I'm like, I don't really like to have my process be different. So I'm like, when we're like done letting our boil or whirlpool finish, it's like you have 15 minutes to set, and then I'm casting you out, and in 30 minutes I want everything in that tank cooled, fermenting, ready to go. So when I'm like, all right, I need to like pull this filter off and re-fucking pipe everything, it's like I need to do this as fast as possible, because it's like I want to add as little time as possible for like oxidation or anything like that. So it's like I took 2 minutes basically, just like as fast as I could take this filter off. But yeah, so basically we bailed on that experiment and then went into the next experiment, which was going to build on or replace it. I was ready for this failure because I was like, this might not work. And basically it was like we just drop out at 24 hours what I was trying to technically filter out, which is just like a little bit of like, hop junk or like, coagulated proteins that kind of make their way through, and then gravity just kind of lets them sink out. And then I just go in and I drop it out. It's like 15 liters of wort basically out the bottom, like grimy shit. And I'm just like, all right, see you later. But I thought like for us in Dora 65, that made a massive difference. And we've implemented that throughout our entire lineup as a standard process now.
Okay.
It gave it a much cleaner, like juicier profile. And it's like no work for me to do that, honestly. Like I go in there the next day anyways. It takes me like maybe a minute to do this. So it's something that I've just started to do. And I've been really, really happy with the results. So like that's what it is about like Dora, where I'm just like, let's just try something. We'll take notes, see if it's, good or bad. The most recent Dora that just came out today was Dora 67. You might not believe this, but I decoction mashed it. So just to see what happens.
Like, can you explain what that is for folks who like, particularly like how it applies to an IPA as opposed to like a crispy?
Yeah, so it's also I would not call it a conventional decoction.
Okay.
So people hearing this are going to be, if you know what I'm talking about, once I explain that, you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then hopefully you try the beer and like, it turned out interesting, honestly. It's got like a crazy amount of body. So what we did is a decoction mash typically is you would take a portion of the mash. So your mash is where you mix the grain and the water together, and you would take, somewhere in the range of like 30%, pull it off, boil it, and then return it to the mash, which would then raise the overall mash temperature up. And if you do a, double or a triple decoction, you would do that 2 or 3 times, and it would take up the entirety of the mash, like the temperature of the mash up with it every decoction.
Gotcha.
So what we did is not pull off 30%. I did basically a standard, like we grained in, had a normal grain in, whatever, at like 158 for us, which is on the hotter side. So 158 Celsius or Fahrenheit. And then I just boiled the whole mash, the 100% of it, just to see just took it right up to a boil. I actually had a boil over in my mash tun, which is something I've never seen before. It was very odd, but it did happen. I let it get right up to there. And then I just proceeded as normal after that. So we boiled the mash, and then we ran off into the kettle, went through a normal sparge, et cetera, et cetera. It ended up finishing as a result of boiling the mash, because you end up getting just a different protein structure that your yeast can't eat. It ended up finishing sweeter, which is what I expected. So it is actually probably going to be the sweetest beer on paper that we released this year. That being said, it's still not that sweet. Like, it's probably just normal IPA sweetness for most people. But for us, it would be like 4 points, somewhere between like 3 to 4 points sweeter than normal for that style for us. And then we just proceeded as normal with the rest of our process. But now, that's not a process that I'm going to be implementing to all of our IPAs, I don't think. But that's what Door is about. I was like, let's just do something fucking whatever. Let's just see. I've got an idea, and like I reasonably expect it could have a good outcome. Let's try it. Like, if I think it's going to be a bad outcome, I'm probably not going to do it.
Right.
But yeah, this is one of those things where I was like, we could get too much malt expression, which I actually don't like. We didn't really get. These grains are super neutral, so it kind of doesn't matter. But what I was looking for was those like super long chain proteins. And I think we did a decent job of getting them. So if anyone listening to this hasn't tried Dora 67,
go get it. It just dropped today, right?
Yeah.
I didn't even grab that. I'm gonna go back tomorrow or Saturday and grab that shit.
Now you know it's a decoction mash.
It's decoction mash.
Not conventionally decoction mash, a 100% decoction mash IPA. Yeah.
That's crazy. But that's like super cool. Like, it's interesting hearing you talk about this in the way that, like, I don't know about you, Nate, but like that's once again, that Select Citra and the Select series from the first year from 2022 was just so insane to me.
Yeah.
I'd never had IPAs that creamy and impeccable, I don't think, ever in any of my travels. And then if you're saying that was 2 years ago and now all the stuff is even better, no, I feel like it's hard to tell because I've been following the journey, you know what I mean? Because maybe if I had 3 or 4 a year, then like you'd probably notice the change, but having them mostly week to week, and I think Nate had been quite similar, so like it was harder to like pinpoint like some sort of drastic thing. But
yeah, you're part of the incremental, right? If you're having them week to week to week, you like it's so small on a week to week basis that honestly you might not notice until maybe one beer lands on your palate and you're just like, whoa, this one came together for me.
That's definitely I can definitely think of a few that has happened for me for but like by and large it's like you say, it's incremental stuff, and you might not like, it's harder to get a sense of the overall trend when you're when you're kind of having them like week in week out, aside from the handful of them that like really just fucking hit for you.
What for you, Nate? I'd actually like to hear from all of us. Like, what will, because I've even got a few that just pop into my head, and one of them actually is the one we're about to have shortly. But
I know I was like, I'm gonna wait to transition this.
Yeah. So I was trying to set the layup for everybody. Does everyone have some fave? Like that. Yeah, I got you. Was there any like faves that you guys have had, even just over the last couple of years, that really stand out? Actually, before we should ask Troy last, because but I also feel like you're like the most biased, but kind of the least biased, because brewers are inherently like haters on their own shit. Like,
I hated my shit for sure.
Yeah, so like actually, it's probably more so. Maybe we're kind of biased actually, but. Nate, what were some of your faves that you've had over the last little bit, like 1 to 2 years?
Some of my faves that I've had over the last little bit, from last year's Select, the Idaho 7 was one that like really blew my mind. That one was wild. Like Craig and I have been fans of Idaho 7 as a hop for some time now, but that one like had a completely different expression from any Idaho 7 that I've had before. Like huge like ruby red grapefruit notes, and just kind of the like big, bold, punchy like flavor that one brought through was particularly wild. That was one Beer Bus is one that I've loved for the for the past couple of years, and another one was Mind Prism back in 2022, which I think was only like a month or two after we did the pod, which I there you go. There you go.
Right there.
Yeah. And I remember I remember when we were talking on that pod, like that was right when Galaxy was just really not hitting for you. I remember that that was a topic of it at the time, and then it was kind of funny that within a couple of months of that, I think what you had said in the post or something was that you just got a batch of Galaxy that really hit well, and and in that one it came through super nice. That's one that sticks out for me.
And we haven't made it since then.
Yeah, right. I haven't seen Mind Prism in forever, actually. Since that. That's a great one.
We'll probably make it again this year because we're in that same position where I found
Galaxy.
I found a lot of Galaxy that I'm really into.
Literally a few weeks ago, wasn't there at least two Galaxy beers?
There's another beer. So we haven't made this beer. Gamma.
What's that one? Gamma. Okay.
It's called Gamma. Yeah, we haven't made that beer we have never made it in cans. I don't think.
Oh, I definitely
it's been 4 years.
Okay.
Because I've been
see
unhappy with Galaxy and Amarillo, so I kind of rebuilt the beer. But now we have good Galaxy, and then I moved Amarillo out and Nectaron in. So we're actually going to make that beer with that lot of Galaxy soon, and we selected Nectaron this year. So I have high hopes for this beer coming back. It used to be back in the day one of my favorites. Yeah, so Peach Nectar has our selected Nectaron.
Okay, which we're going to segue to.
And Peacherine.
And Peacherine, which we don't select for, but there's only one lot of it. So
okay. Because Peacherine is the goat of all goat hops. I don't think there's.
It's a pretty amazing hop. Yeah. Actually, you know what? Let's just transition right into having it.
You're fucking right.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I've ran out of beer here.
Okay. Did you drink the whole bottle? I was almost close. It's okay. I'm going to save this for afterwards. I'll let Tiff try it. I was telling her, I was texting her, I was like, yo, do you want me to save some for you? Because I'm going to drink all this.
All right, I just got to run and grab it. Give me a second.
grab it. While people are going, my favorites, even though neither of these boys can hear, Badlands have two beers. One was called Riri, like Rihanna, with Rawaka. Did you have Riri? Yes, I got Riri for you, I think. Or did I not?
I don't think I had I don't think I had this past year's Riri. I had 2022s. I don't think I had the 2023.
Okay. The 2023 was disgusting, and Kiwi was the other one with all the Kiwi hops. And I had one. I actually want to double check what it was. I had it on Sunday, just past at my mother-in-law's house, and I was like, I'm gonna bring this stuff there, but I don't want to share it with my brother and with anybody. I was like, and my brother was just like, what the fuck is this? He'd had obviously Badlands before, and he was losing his mind at how aromatic it was. Let me see if I can find the photo. There it is. Oh, exactly.
Oh yeah, that beer was awesome.
Nelson, Citra, and Moteca. Anything that you've done with Nectaron with fuck off. Pedestal Peacherine. Lord Jesus, it is just insane, dude. So yeah, tell us about Peach Nectar, which is just gorgeous.
Yeah, Peach Nectar. It's Peacherine, Nectaron, split 50-50.
Love it. The two goats.
Yeah, just built on our kind of classic Badlands house-ish IPA base.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean it's just one of those beers that as soon as I had Peacherine, so I did Pedestal Peacherine. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I did that beer, because we just sent it right away on this hop because we kind of had a good feeling about it. So we just did the single hop right out of the gate. But as soon as I had tried that single hop Peacherine, I was just like, I know what the next beer is. It's Peach.
It's
Nectar.
the one.
It's going to be Peacherine and Nectaron. These hops are clearly meant for one another, and that's how this came to be. And then I just
you did it you did it last year too?
Peach Nectar?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you. Keep going. I just saw it in Untapped here, and I was like, oh shit. Time.
But this is one of those ones that was like beers come from anywhere. Like we don't have like a particular process for how we come up with beer recipes, names, anything like that. This is one of those ones where I just like tasted Pedestal Peachery and was like, all right, I know where this is headed. And then the name just made sense. So I just sent that to our artist. I was like, peach nectar. And I didn't give him anything else. And then he gave us this cool like waterfall of like a peach into, like a fountain waterfall look. And anyways, he crushed it. So yeah, I mean, I love this beer.
Yeah, man.
I think people responded pretty well to it. Like last year it sold out quick. This year, like all of our beers sell honestly roughly at the same speed, but this one sold like 10% faster than normal type thing.
Oh,
which is usually.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and like we got a lot of messages about it and that type of thing. So usually that's a good sign of people want. Oh yeah, right. Sorry, I already started drinking it.
No, you're good. Don't worry. We haven't been doing
I think this is the first time we've actually cheersed.
Yeah, gentlemen.
So far today we're on beer 3.
Yeah, I know. It was my fault from the beginning. Cheers, boys.
Cheers. Yeah, no, it's awesome beer. It's one of those ones where peacherine. One of the things about peacherine is that it throws like amazing haze, like really dense, like bright haze. And then it also contributes a little bit of body, I find.
Okay, interesting.
Whereas
is that uncommon,
Nectar is no, so like all hops have what I would kind of classify into 3 different categories of like what they contribute to mouthfeel. They're either like body positive, neutral, or negative, roughly speaking.
Okay.
So like Mauvtare is a positive one. Peacherine, positive. Something like Citra, I would say, is neutral. It neither contributes body nor takes away. Something like Galaxy, body negative. It generally adds astringency, thins the beer out.
I thought you were kind of joking at first.
Another one. No, I'm not joking at all.
Because like body positive, I thought you were like being funny, but okay, this is awesome. No. Sorry, keep going. It's not what I expected.
I'm just hijacking those terms.
Yeah, no, fuck it, please do.
Talus is another one where it's, I would say, like body negative. Like it takes away, like if you build a huge bodacious body and you dry hop something with Galaxy and Talus, I find it takes a bit away from the body. Whereas if you were to go throw something like Mauvtare and peacherine at it, it would be additive. Like it would add body on top of something that you already built. So as long as you know those, like, whatever lots of hops you're working with kind of contribute those things, then you can also design your recipe at the beginning to be either bigger or smaller, depending on what you want to do with it. So peacherine is just one of those hops that adds, I would say, body to that, beer, generally speaking.
That is genuinely fascinating. That is something that like never heard before as far as like hops contributing to that. And like I think a mate of yours, Guillaume from Le Catch in Quebec, who funnily enough we gave you all the props, by the way, Troy, because you did the collab with Le Catch, and I went and got it, and I was texting Nate. I was like, yo, this is fucking amazing. And he's like, yo, I've been there a bunch of times. Like, I don't recall them being mind-blowing. What's the deal? And I texted you, and I was like, tell me about Le Catch. You were like, I don't know, man. They sent me a bunch of beers, and it was phenomenal. And then Nate was like, okay, I'm there next week. And you went, and Nate was like, Troy's right. This is fucking incredible. And then we had Guillaume on, and Le Catch was easily our biggest Quebec discovery of 2023. And the reason why I'm saying that was Guillaume called peacherine the cheat code hop.
Yeah.
It's definitely a cheater hop for sure.
Name a bad beer that has peacherine.
It's impossible. It's impossible. I mean, I don't want to say it's impossible. I'm sure someone can make it happen.
I'm sure it's possible. But
you have to be motivated.
I gotta give a second set of props on that too, because Troy made the connect for me to hook up with Guillaume, because I got I got his contact information from Troy, cool. And then we made the connect from there.
So Troy is really look at that. He's bringing everyone together. Look at you.
Yeah, that's good. No, I mean, Guillaume's a good dude. I think he's making some of the best hoppy beer up there right now.
100%.
Easily.
That's it. I'm always really, really happy when he sends me beer. I genuinely enjoy drinking his beer.
It is so good.
I think he's doing a great job, and he's got his own house profile, which I find amazing.
Yeah.
The most amazing of all is when breweries develop something that distinguishes them, and I think he's got that going on right now. Sure. And anyways, it just makes it really, really enjoyable to drink. But yeah, he's dead on when he says that Peacherine is a cheater hop, because you just use it and it works. And I'll be honest, like Nectaron is kind of the same thing. Like we have a really good line of Nectaron right now. And it's just like, oh, cool. It's like pineapple-y and fruity, and just put it in something and that's what you get. So to some extent, that's why I put these hops together. I'm like, this just puts
can't go wrong.
New cheaters together. And it's like a modern day. That's it. It's like the modern day Citra Mosaic combo, but from New Zealand.
Yo! I never thought of that, because anything Citra, even to this day, if someone has Citra Mosaic, you're like, I'm gonna roll the dice on that. I ain't gonna fuck it. That's not gonna be bad.
I mean, like, if you're making a Citra Mosaic beer, it's gonna be probably, at the very least, pretty solid.
Yeah.
Like, those hops are really good.
So now the new Citra Mosaic is Peacherine Nectaron. Dude, that is I don't know if that's going to be episode name-ish, Nate, there, but that
I've already written it down.
Thank you, my man. That is... That's just... I need to, like, just compute that a little bit. That is so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Because the Citra Mosaic thing has been, what, a decade? That's been a thing for close to?
Yeah, because Mosaic would have been 2013 or 14 maybe is when it came out, and then Citra was 2008. So
around that, oh, man, and this is like the modern era of that, and that is so cool. I feel like it's so interesting if you want to compare hops to music, because my other podcast is music, and we always like, I got Tiff's cousin Dan, who's 26, and me and my brother are the old fucks, and we're always like complaining about new music, and he likes the new stuff. He likes the old stuff too, actually, because he's a G, but we're always complaining about like the new stuff. So it's actually kind of dope that the new stuff in the world of something like beer with hops are like elevating constantly and are taking things to a new level, and like Peacherine is delivering flavors that is just mind-blowing, and Nectaron and when you put those two things together, it's just like this was one of my favorite beers that you've done in some time, to be honest. I didn't have last year's one.
This is magic.
This is magic.
Yeah, no, it's when you're talking about like what were some of my favorite beers, this one's really it's up there. That's why I wanted to do this one as the IPA for the episode. I'm
so happy that you said this. Yeah,
I almost chose Crash, but I was like, nah, this is the right choice. Use Peach.
Yeah, this is the right one.
That being said,
Crash is great.
I fucking love that beer so much. But again, it's all New Zealand hops.
What was the hops again in Crash, bro?
See where, it's Rawaka Superdelic Peacherine.
Yeah, disgusting. Crash is out of control. I said, but you guys had both had the headphones off, but I said my two faves were Riri, which was just, and Kiwi. Those two were end of last year, out of control.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah, I just feel like the Rawaka is just such a brilliant hop. I think Peacherine is the goat of goats, but like I don't know, name even a mid New Zealand hop. Excuse me, like
the most mid would be like a Waimea or like
Wakatu or
those ones are like, they're fine. Like I wouldn't use them heavily in an IPA, but they make nice accent hops. But
Motueka still
Southern Cross. Motueka's fire as fuck. Like
is Southern Cross is Australian, not New Zealand, no?
It's New Zealand, yeah.
Really? Just so you know, where is it? Right fucking here, Australian flag, mate. All right. This is
represent
fucking Australia. This is called the Southern Cross. If anyone has this tattooed, this thing, if they got this tattooed on them, they're a racist. That's really what that means. And if you wear this as a cape, also racist. But that is in the sky, and New Zealand, fun fact, stole this from our flag, and they put a red little thing around it, and this one here is called the Southern Cross. This thing here specifically. Sorry, hold up. No.
Southern one.
That's the Southern Cross.
Yeah.
This is Southern Cross. This has a specific star name. I'm multiple beers deep, and I've forgotten the name.
We're gonna call it the Star of David.
I'll take it. Anyway,
Star I know.
New Zealand stole our shit, but they make better hops, so I don't know what to say.
It's true.
I really would have thought that they really fucking do. That's true. Aussie hops are like, for a while, Galaxy was god tier. Nothing beat Galaxy, Ella, Vic, Secret.
As a tie back to the last podcast we did, where I spent a large portion of the time shitting on Galaxy.
Yep, you did.
We just trialed, we just trialed 9 different lots. Like we just finished trialing 9 different lots. Provocative being the 9th different lot of hops of Galaxy hops we used. And I'm happy to report that this year's harvest is head and shoulders above anything we've tried in the last 3 years, easily.
And and I love that you've used it. What did you use it in recently? Because I drank some of them and I just forgot. Were they like the Barry and Mary and the February double IPA?
Evolver and Die was the first New Year Galaxy lot that we used. Okay. We've been using it like almost 2 months now. So it would have been like Thunderous Applause. What the hell? Beer Bus would have had New Year.
Okay. I've had a bunch of these. Yeah.
The Beer Bus was fucking fire this year.
Yeah, Beer Bus was.
I agree. That was almost the lot we chose. We chose the lot from Thunderous Applause as our lot for the year.
That was another really good one.
Yeah, I just dry hopped 2 beers with it this week, and opening the bag, I was like, "This was the right choice." It smells so good. It's like so pineapple-y and nice. And then we used it in some like double IPAs as well. And yeah, it was Barry and Mary. Provocative had it, and Provocative was the 9th one. But yeah, I would say the 2 that stood out to me were January Dippa had it as well.
That was
the 2 that stood out to me the most was Thunderous and Beer Bus. And it was a call choosing between the 2. Because on paper, I would say I probably would have preferred the oil content of the Beer Bus, but the actual way it presented itself in the beer and also bag smell was a little bit better the Thunderous one. So that's why we ended up going with that one.
Gotcha.
Nice.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Spectacular.
So, happy to report they've made some changes.
Yeah. I'm going to come back to a conversation of quality control for a second because I want to make sure I hit on another point of our listener question request.
Yes, please.
On the on the quality control topic, because he was pointing out as we've already well established that Badlands quality control is pretty unrivaled in the in the province as far as we're concerned. And so on that note, one question that I have, and answer this to whatever degree you're comfortable with, but what I'm kind of going towards is, what does it take for you to dump a beer?
It depends to some extent, but basically, I wear a few different hats. So, on a brewing hat.
I've never seen you wear a hat. Never once.
I sometimes wear hats, mostly in the summer. But
great hair, Troy. Great hair.
I also rarely wear hats.
No,
Nate doesn't.
If you saw me on the farm, I always have a hat on, but that's it. And inside, I take my hat off because I'm a good 1920s boy. And I do not wear hats inside.
Because you're a respectful gentleman.
Damn right he is.
That's right. We're civilized. I wear a lot of different hats, right? So there's ownership hats, brewing hats. So from a brewing perspective, I would want to dump beer probably more than we do, honestly. Just because I'm just not happy with it. Don't want it. But then, you have to put on your other hat and you're like, this is the ownership hat. You're like, is there anything wrong with it? And if the answer is no, then you release it. But the degree to which you have to answer that question also matters. So when you're like, well, is there anything wrong with it? It's like, all right, is it free of off flavors? Yes. Is it at least aromatic and fruity? Yes. Is there a degree of hop burn that I find completely unacceptable and won't ever go away? If the answer is yes, we might dump it. We've also done some stuff where we've done I would call it a soft dump. So we'll package a touch of it. like let it out there and just be like, I just don't really like this beer, so we're just gonna fucking throw half of it out, and then we'll release a little bit, just like to the locals, see what they think, see if I was wrong, and then if we come across this again, then I won't dump half of it next time. I'll just release it. We've done that with a few beers, and I call it like a soft dump, and it's just like I basically will, like I said, we'll maybe can half or whatever of it, and just make sure it goes out to people we kind of know drink our beer regularly, and we just ask them, like, be honest, like, what do you think about these? And they're like, yeah, like it wasn't your best. I'm like, I feel good. We dumped half. It's fine. Like, we did the right thing, not letting this get out wider, and to people's hands where it might be the first time they ever try our beer, and you're just like, it's just not good. So we just try not to get it out there. And then, I mean, that would be kind of the only time we dump is like if we fuck it up, then we just dump it. Like I did dump a beer like a couple months ago. And it was just straight up like I just fucked it up, so I just got rid of it and then made a new beer. That's just the way it is.
I like that.
Part of the cost of doing business,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great answer. Did that end? That was Adam's question, right? Adam Warburton.
That was, yeah.
Warby.
You know him?
Good old Adam.
Yeah, he's a champion.
He bartends for us periodically as well.
He did tell me
does
that.
he?
Yeah. He was
Yes.
like he's just a champion, just always like supportive of BOS, but asking like I can't remember why he asked that question because he listened to the other one. I was just telling him about what was going on. He was like, "Yo, can you ask this one?" I'm like, "Yeah, brother, no problem." So it's that's great. Shouts to him.
Yep, Adam's the best. Good question, Adam. Yeah, I mean, it also depends too. I should qualify that a little more, depending on the style. So like that would be an answer for like IPA when we would dump. For mixed firm, it's actually slightly more aggressive, where I'm just like, if it's just not good, it's just gone. Don't care.
And
then
there's no skill in the game.
Yeah, and then something for like stouts, also a slightly different answer. Because if it's
you can save it more, right?
It depends what's wrong with it. So like we have only dumped maybe like 2% of all the barrels we've ever filled in stout.
That's
so
not
like
bad.
Not a lot. No, it's honestly I'm really, really happy with our dump ratio on stouts. But it turned, it's like almost like a viney, like you could tell it I don't think it got infected, but it's almost like green peppery viney. And I'm just like, there's nothing I can do with this. Like this is trash. I can't blend this with something else because it'll ruin a perfectly good beer that I'm blending with. So for me, I'm like, this is just garbage, and it sucks for something like that. You're like, oh, it's like a $400 barrel filled with like probably like almost $1,000 fucking dollars worth of beer, but it is what it is. So you're just like, I can't ruin something else with this, so we get rid of it. Like there's just no point on trying to
I get it.
save a small part of beer, and basically it's like bringing down the good pieces to save something else. And then the whole is just worse as a result. It's like, it's just not worth it. So we've just always kind of erred on the side of dumping, and some of our regulars get annoyed, honestly. Like, just throw shit out if I don't like it. And they're like, you're too quick to dump it. I'm like, and that's why you keep coming.
Like, I feel that, like, and that's
like, I feel
great.
like that must be why Adam asked that question, is that like your quality control is that is that tight. And you mentioned that that kind of vegetal note in stouts. That's one of those things that
they can be, right?
I got to credit our friend Noah with teaching me about that one, as I was kind of training my palate. Like once you kind of learn to detect that kind of thing in stouts, it really, really stands out, and like you kind of can't taste anything else once you start tasting green pepper in your stouts. Like that's not that's not something you want to be tasting, unfortunately.
No, I cannot stand that flavor profile in stout, and if we get a barrel with that, it's just gotta go.
It's gotta go.
Yeah, and like coffee additions in stouts can really accentuate that. It seems like.
Yeah. I mean, you can take a perfectly good stout and put coffee in it and get big time green pepper. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Like we've done coffee stouts in the past. Like I roast my own coffee for those. Well, you know now, Craig.
I kept some to send to Nate.
Anyone who listened to episode 160.
Yes, and do you know what? I kept the other half for Nate, and I forgot to send it to you, but I still have it.
Okay.
So I will get it to you.
But yeah, one of the things I found, at least, like I don't put a lot of coffee in beer because I actually don't love coffee in beer. I find it like it's fine.
Have you had Pêché?
It's a decent addition. Sorry.
Have you had Pêché Mauvtare?
Yeah, like I love it.
Of course,
don't get me wrong, I think people do a really good job with it.
But it's not for you, like typically speaking.
Not really. That's the thing. Like for my own personal flavor profile, I'm just like it's just not really my. It's not my like. I love coffee as much as almost anything else in the world. Like I drink it every day. I roast my own. Like I genuinely have an attachment with coffee that I do with few other things, honestly, and like other than like beer, almost really. It's like the thing I do, or maybe cooking, but like. I do it all the time. Like I love coffee, and for some reason, every time I put it in beer, I find both things a little worse. So I generally am like, I don't love it. I found some interesting ways of getting it in, where like you basically just get way less of that, green fucking pepper note, and usually it's just a very very fresh roast. Put it in immediately. That kind of takes away almost all of that. But then the coffee has like a terrible aging curve as well, and it basically needs to be consumed fresh. Mm-hmm. It becomes like IPA shelf life at that point. So there probably won't be too many.
It's subtle, yeah. I know
coffee beers in our portfolio. Like I'm not gonna say we'll never do another coffee beer ever again. We almost certainly will, but it'll never be something that we do a lot of. Just because I don't know. For me, I'm like. It's just never as good as I want it to be.
That's fair.
It always leaves me wanting for something better, sadly.
Yeah.
It could be a me problem, to be clear.
Well, you got to be... I think the best breweries on the planet do just that. Like, if the brewer isn't fucking with it, then they're not doing it. And I just think I just think it's really important. Like, just you have to be true to you, because if you don't love it, and you mentioned this earlier, you said earlier when you were drinking the beers, if you're not loving it, then we have a problem. And
you got a big problem, yeah.
You personally, like we were talking about that last time, and you were really... I enjoyed being with you and Mike and Chris at Durand and drinking your beers, and you were commenting on your beers. And I'd never seen Durand Bar that busy, by the way. It was fucking insane. And I felt bad that we were taking...
I'd never been before, but I was like, it was slammed. It was awesome.
Yeah, Chris said it. I texted him the next day. I was like, dude, that was insane. Like, I'd never seen anything like that. And I hadn't had food, and I had to drive back. It was beautiful. We just had the pod, and it was just such a good time, and it was cool to, like, obviously Nate and I were with you in that time a couple years ago, and I'd been a bunch of times, and we've been drinking there, but it was different at Durand to see Troy out of like your area in somewhere else, and then drink the beers and sort of like comments on what you liked and what you did. Oh yeah, this is drinking great right now. We're drinking them all on draft and stuff. And I just thought that was like dope to see, like, you enjoy your own beers at a bar. Like, you could be drinking anything, right? And obviously the tap takeover, you actually couldn't technically be drinking anything, but like it was just cool to see.
A deep cellar. So.
He does have a deep fucking cellar. He could have bust out whatever he wanted for you, but it was just cool to see, like, your response to your own products. And I just think that's like a really strong tell for any brewery. And obviously, 9 years into this podcast almost, and all the different people we've interviewed, and I feel like that's a consistent thing that I would say that we've noticed, is that the brewers who make what they love are just make the best beer. And you have to stick to that. Whether, like, me and Nate I fucking love coffee stouts, and just for what you said, I would probably take a coffee over a beer 8 times out of 10. I love, like, an oat milk latte. Get the fuck out of here. There is nothing better. Like, I will take a bath in that shit. But putting it in a beer, I think it's fantastic. Now, if you don't like it, I think that is completely fine. And then there's not going to be a Badlands coffee stout. And that's great, because that means they're going to be different to other ones that have coffee in it. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And if like we end up getting one that we make semi-often, then it means I probably
that it works for you.
That I do enjoy. Exactly. And maybe it's a varietal or a different like roast profile or something that gets me there. Like I haven't spent truthfully like enough time on it. And like I've had some like really, really nice coffee stouts. That's why I don't want to say that like they shouldn't be together, but I almost always, when I'm making them myself, feel I'm like, these two independent pieces are better on their own, rather than like elevating. That. And that's the thing. It's like if I can find a way to put them together better one of these days, then we absolutely will.
And if not,
but until that day comes, then you're not going to see too much of that from us. I'll be honest. Like right now, so the next beer we're going to do is going to be a stout, and one of my favorite adjuncts, if not my favorite adjunct in stout. It definitely is my favorite adjunct.
Can I guess? I was about to say.
Oh, no. Sorry, take it back. What do you think it is?
Coconut.
I do love coconut, but it's not my favorite. And we've been working a lot with how to get the vanilla expression that I want just in the beer. And I'm very, very happy with where we've landed. And also just where we're sourcing some of the vanilla now. We've got some exciting stuff coming that I don't want to spoil quite yet, but I'm pretty sure in the next few months, world exclusive, it'll be out. I haven't finished everything. I don't want to promise anything I can't deliver on yet because we're a little too far out, but there should be something exciting coming up before summer with vanilla and stout.
Okay, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. But anyways, vanilla is something that I've spent a lot of time on because I love vanilla. I think
it's pretty intense.
It is, and like there's just so much in vanilla, and that might be one of the things that kind of like excites me the most about using it. Is most people think of vanilla as Madagascar vanilla. So Madagascar vanilla is just what almost everyone thinks vanilla tastes like. It is from the Madagascar vanilla bean. It is that flavor profile. There's vanilla grown in a ton of other places, and they're completely different and really, really good. But like you call them vanilla, and people are going to be kind of confused because they don't really taste like what you think vanilla is. Like Tahitian vanilla is not at all like Madagascar vanilla. Like it's like dark fruit, like figgy, like it's really nice. And then there's like Mexican vanilla, which is almost like it's got like a leather note sometimes. Like it's just a totally different thing.
Yeah.
You got Ugandan.
It's like you can almost get the same kind of notes from vanilla as you can from a lot of barrels
or coffee.
It seems like.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like any other agricultural product grown, wherever. It's
like terroir.
The variations, absolutely. The variations significant. And as we've started like pulling back the curtain on vanilla, I'm like, this is probably, for me at least, the coolest and best adjunct to put in stouts. And for some reason, for me, it just feels right to go in there. Like Madagascar is like, it's amazing. We're definitely going to have one that's just a Madagascar like stout because it's just so satisfying. Yeah, we have a sick lot of Madagascar vanilla that we're going to be putting in a stout at some point here, and it's going to be great. We're going to be really stoked about it. But to use some of these other ones, we're going to play with them a little bit more for people as well to kind of hopefully get on the bandwagon that like I'm living on right now, where I'm like, yo, these vanillas are so fucking sweet, man. And then hopefully bring everyone along with us. There's just so much there. These big stouts in particular, they just meld so well. And yeah, that's why we made this one, the BBA Tranilla. It's like a 3 favorite vanillas mixed in with the base is our Inky Stout. So like the one from this year, it's the same base.
Okay, with the 3 vanilla. So may I suggest, because that was a phenomenal segue, is everyone down for a piss break and we can do a pause and then we can come back and jump into that? All right, I'm going to pause right now. You guys won't even notice, and we'll see you in a second. And we are back. I have never seen 3 empty bladders like this before, boys. The emptiest
time for everything
of all the bladders. And speaking of vanilla, I guess that was Troy's glorious segue that was interrupted by a brief emptying session. Shall we?
Had to be done. Had to be done. So next on the docket, we got BBA Tranilla, bourbon barrel-aged Tranilla. Like I said earlier, the base is the same as the Inky December 2024 or 23, whatever it is. It's an awesome base, unctuous, if you will. And then what we did is we
unctuous. That's a good word.
Unctuous is we put 3 different types of vanilla. So we had the Madagascar, Tahitian, and Mexican. They all contribute slightly different things, and it's at a very high dosing rate. It ends up being somewhere in the neighborhood of like $2 per bottle of vanilla.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a high rate, but
that's high.
It's high. Yeah, no, it's like we want to make sure it's there, right?
Yeah.
Treat it.
Yeah, if you're going to add it, then you want to taste it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, because we're doing the Tranilla, we're kind of able to go a lot higher without anyone being like, "Oh, this is too vanilla-y." Because, like I said, most people think vanilla tastes like Madagascar vanilla. Right. So only 1/3 of it, like the total vanilla rate, is Madagascar. So you're like, "Oh yeah," like one of the first things that Grace said when she tried it, my wife / business partner. She's like, "Oh yeah, like it's vanilla, but it's not too vanilla." I was like, "Excellent."
That's what you right on the money then.
It's because you think it. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you think it's just the Madagascar and the Tahitian and the Mexican just kind of are a whole other flavor profile that most people have never tried in their lives.
How many different types of vanilla are there?
That's a great question. A lot.
That's your answer, folks.
That I know of. Whether there's more than that or not, I'm not sure. But I have at least kind of like 5 or 6 that I'm able to buy at any given time from a vanilla supplier I trust. With just they supply great vanilla. So.
Are you able to reveal the name of the supplier? Because Craig and I had heard a little while back that there's kind of one main vanilla supplier in Ontario. I may be mixing this up, but are you able to reveal who the supplier is?
We get some from. It depends. So the thing, the ones that we have from this is from. I actually cannot remember the name right now.
It's been a few beers, so I don't blame you.
I know. I'm like, her name is Camille. I'm like, God damn it. Two podcasts in a row where someone puts me on the spot with a name. God damn it.
Remember, Troy, remember.
God damn it. But we've gotten some great vanilla from. It's called, I think it's Beanilla. It's a website like in
that's really
US.
Familiar.
But they've started.
Oh, it's in the US. Okay.
Yeah, but they've started to get a little bit harder to get across the border, and they sometimes won't ship it. You have to deal with them. But they have great vanilla, point blank. Like you can ask them for, whatever vanillas they have potentially in stock or coming, and be like, I'm like looking for this, and they'll hook you up. So vanilla for sure is good. I cannot remember the name of this fucking other place though. Where this vanilla is from, it's not from that place. It's not from Vanilla.
But some of that.
But we've done some with Vanilla, and like their vanilla is fantastic. But this is all right. If I think of it later, I will reveal it. It's not a secret. Like other
That's
people.
Okay. No worries.
No problem.
But it's a memory problem.
It's a 4 beers deep problem, and we're about to be 11.9%.
If we did this first, I might have remembered.
Yeah, exactly. We should have asked. I say that's mine and Nate fault.
That would have been a pretty bold way to start.
By the way, I just want to shout out these particular glasses that Nate and I have are from the Triple Inky pack.
I'm also using one.
We're all using it. Look at that.
We're all using it. That's
good job,
fantastic.
team.
Good job, guys. That wasn't even organized.
It wasn't, but everyone knew.
Everyone knew the assignment. It was. Right. I've been waiting to bust this out. You did a Triple Inky pack. I don't know if it was January or December. To be honest,
I think it's December. We do it for Christmas usually. So
for Christmas.
December.
You know what? That sounds about right. Because Nate and I met up in late December, and that's when we got it. But I was sick, so we didn't get to hang out. But we did get them, and thank you for hooking that up through Chris at Durant. But yeah, Chris did all the work. Look at him; he's a champion. Shouts to Chris. What a fucking legend. And it was he really. Honestly, I want his business to thrive forever. It is brilliant. I was so there was 3 different inkies. I don't know if you. Is it helpful to talk about that because you said this is the base, and maybe we should talk about that and then get deeper into this specific version?
Yep. Yeah. So the inky beers, roughly speaking, for us are they're the stouts that we think at that particular point in time are just tasting best. Like they're our best barrels, based on what we have, and the way our stout program works is we always fill more barrels than we need so that we have more just options to pull from, basically. Mm-hmm. So it's been a really, really long process to get to where we are this year, where like right now we have just shy of like 50 barrels of stout filled.
50?
And yeah.
Hey, yo, dude.
So, but I mean, it took us like over 3 years to get kind of all that sorted out. Like that's a lot of money in barrels and wort and time and storage space, and so we could do it all at once. We started filling. So the oldest portion of this blend was filled in 2020. So we brewed. I think we brewed the beer actually in December 2020 and probably filled it January 2021.
Damn,
something like that. So it's that's it. It's like. It's over 3 years at this point, technically, like now that we're in the bottle and whatever.
Oh my goodness.
But that was always the goal for us, is we wanted to have, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of half of the barrels to 60% being kind of in that 1 or 12 month to 18 month range. And then kind of like 25 to 30% of the beers in like the kind of 18 to 24 month range, or maybe up to 30. And then like the last 10 or whatever-ish percent, just kind of like old barrels. And then pull from them as required. And like when I mean old barrels, I just mean like 3 or more, or like, 2.5 to 3 years plus. And the reason for that is you just get radically different things from all these beers as they do age. The evaporation on these beers is pretty significant after a lot of time.
Okay.
You'll have a full barrel at the start. 3 years later, like 15-20% of the beer is evaporated. And you just get like a different like reduction in the actual beer. So
is it thicker? Does it become like, does the water evaporate, so therefore what's remaining is kind of like just denser?
Exactly. Yep. Huh. It's technically like a really slow way of distilling your beer, I guess, technically speaking.
That's cool. That's why they're fucking so high ABV.
We put them into the barrels usually in like the 10.5 to 11% range, and then they pick up a bunch obviously on the way. So like if you just put it into a bourbon barrel, it'll pretty much pick up 1% right away. So if not more. And then you just let it sit there for a few years. And I mean, you can guess how much it starts to kind of creep up. Mm-hmm. But it gives you like a totally different expression. And then also like you're working with different bourbon barrels from different years as well. So, you have different oak trees potentially that have different flavor. You have different char levels. You have different age of spirits that were in those barrels. So there's just a lot of different things you can do to kind of play around in that time frame. And then when you go back to make those blends, we just have like this awesome spread of colors to play with. So Inky for us was the first year, I would say, like this year, sorry, the most recent Inky release was the first year that we really got to do kind of something that was just kind of on my bucket list, honestly, to do, which was just a blend of a 3-2 and a 1-year-old stout barrel. Okay. And that's purely because that's normally the way you would make a lambic is you would take a 3, 2, and a 1-year-old beer and make a lambic. And I was like, God, that'd be fucking cool if we did that with stout. So that's what it is. It's a 3, 2, and a 1-year-old barrel.
Oh, okay.
Right on.
I'm noting this down. So then the outcome of this, I mean, like, I'm drinking this as you're talking about it, and this is fucking just, dude, this is spectacular. Like, I've had your stouts before, but I really haven't had many. So I feel like this is a little, I don't know which one I would have had.
Probably just the Inkies, honestly.
So you would have had the Barn Cat collab from the anniversary the year we were there.
Off the table. That was a good one.
Yes.
Okay. So that was fucking fire, and maybe that was about it. And I haven't cracked these Inkies yet.
Probably about it.
Yeah, that's probably about it.
Yeah.
So this
we haven't released many because it took us so long
to get to it, right?
And you know what? Right? It even it feels appropriate to be drinking it in in this kind of glass because this is kind of
this is so nice.
So, this is so rich that that it really is kind of like drinking a liqueur. So a glass like this really feels appropriate.
What was this called again?
It's not an accident that we chose this glass.
What was it called?
It's actually a spirit tasting glass from Restal. It's like a German glass making company.
Yeah,
they make Tekus as well.
That really feels about right.
Yeah, I was gonna say it feels like a bourbon tasting glass or something like that.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And that's why I wanted it. I'm like, this for me is like I would love. Like I almost only drink stout out of this glass these days because I
love this so much. And it was interesting because we were talking at the beginning about leaving the. I don't know if we did this on air or off air. We were talking about keeping this bottle out. I kept it in the cooler behind me, which is usually pretty good, but this is at a really, it's kind of like the perfect temperature. Like it's a little bit cold, but it's not too chilled that it's pushing the flavors down. Like I feel like it got warm enough over the last couple of hours and change that it's like, it's very expressive. Like the vanilla is so prominent, as you mentioned, with the dried fruits, with the typical Madagascar vanilla, but also like the dried fruit version that you were saying about the other Tahitian or Mexican, I forgot which one, and the oak and the bourbon. It's bourbon barrel, right? BBA, bourbon barrel. So like the bourbon and the oak typically result in a little more vanilla kind of flavors that are kind of punching through, but it's just so creamy and decadent, but not over the top by any means. Like you wouldn't even really like it's way smoother than 11.9%. I mean, is it is it 11.9 or is it
there's definitely some air quotes on it for sure.
I didn't want to force you to say that, but that's hilarious. Okay, I assumed as much.
I mean, like I said, it goes into the barrel around 10.5 to 11 and immediately picks up 1 to 2%. So after 3 years of reduction, it's still 11.9. Don't worry.
If anyone from the LCBO needs to check, it's like I could tell. I have a very refined palate. So does Nate. It's 11.9, absolutely unbiased.
Absolutely, no question.
Dude, it's just fucking glorious. This is spectacular. And I feel like it's like you said, a blend of 1 to 3 year age barrels, and it was released a month ago, ish, from recording time.
2?
Less.
Yeah, less. Oh no.
Because you gave me a bottle. This is the bottle you gave me first because it didn't.
You're right. It was less than a month. You're right.
I chose this one to have didn't have the wax because I wanted to keep the other one with the wax for.
Right, I hadn't waxed it yet.
Yes, and I wanted to sit on that one for a little bit. And this is, and I was just really looking forward to drinking out of this glass. To be honest, like, there's something about this. This is like christening this glass, and it's glorious. Like Nate was saying, like it's so cool to drink the stout from this, like. Because you'd fill it up and you're drinking it at this temperature, and by the time you finish it and the bottle's kind of like slowly warming, then you fill it again and it's going to be a different temperature. So like, say you fill it 3 times or whatever it is, 3 to 4 times to finish it, it's going to be different temperatures throughout the whole phase of it, and then you're really having this different experience of the beer. Even though you were saying to leave it out, I kept it in the cooler, but I knew that it wasn't going to be. There was slowly.
It's not going to be fridge cold.
It wasn't going to be fridge cold. No. And it was taking out those other things. Like I had these other cans in the bottle, and then we were taking them out relatively quickly, so there wasn't anything else to keep it cold. So it's kind of got this little bit of a chill, but it's like not that much above. I don't know what the temperature might be, but it's to me this is kind of perfect because I feel like I'm getting the expression of the stout without having to wait for it to warm up. So it's
it's perfect.
Yeah, man, I'm super happy. This is glorious. Fuck.
Glad to hear. Mine's like cellar, like the temperature
cellar level.
I taste my barrels at. That's probably what I have it at roughly right now, which for me, I like love. It's like, I think for most people, they would drink what I'm currently drinking and be like, that's too hot. But I'm like into this temperature. It's got a very unique presentation this way. And I just enjoy it. I think hotter than maybe most people would want to drink it.
I understand. It seems to be I feel like the Third Moon Boys kind of said the same thing, like as far as how they prefer it as well, and like the producers of the product potentially prefer it more of this sort of like just shy of room temperature, like you said earlier.
We taste through barrels at that temperature, right?
Yeah, so a lot of times
you're making blends at that temperature. This is just my own hypothesis for why I think I like it like that. Is I drank these beers a ton of times at that temperature before we make these blends, and then I make the blend and I drink it at that temperature, and then we like package it up, give it to people, they drink it cold, and I'm like, I'm not even really sure what it tastes like at that temperature.
That's a fucking good point, man. It's I mean, Nate, what was yours straight from the fridge, or do you let it sit?
No, I took it out before we started recording, as Troy told us to.
Okay, so yours is like 2.5 hours of sitting out, so it's essentially around room temperature, just below.
Yeah, I would say this is about at or just below room temperature right now.
Okay, so mine is
I'm thinking we're like, like 60, probably like 60 F is what I'm guessing is what I'm drinking at right now. Which for me is like not bad at all.
This is so good, dude. Like,
this is fucking delightful.
Glad to hear.
This has become, because I've had those the Wednesdays that I do the big stouts on, and this is interesting because it's like with I think I was telling you, but obviously Nate, but Troy, I must have told you, like I've been doing these like sort of stout Wednesdays where I'm doing like the bigger beers, and they've been like a fun way to like, this is my night where I get to kind of really go deep in the cellar and like to have some stuff that, if I have 3-4 other beers, I'm not going to be able to have. So I knew tonight, since we were doing this, I was like, all right, I'm going to be pretty lit, but fuck it, we ball. And this is just so fucking glorious, man. Like it's so cool because the vanilla is refined. It's extraordinarily present, but it's not like this. Sometimes vanilla can be a little kind of wild and a little maybe over the top. And this is just so balanced because, I mean, I imagine from what you've just explained that there's the different flavor profiles of the Tahitian and the Mexican vanilla as opposed to the Madagascan has sort of bringing in this, like, I don't know, more complex, fruited, dark fruit, rounded profile to these beautiful chocolate cacao type of stout that is, just rounding it all out. Plus you add the oak and the bourbon and it's like, it's glorious. It's kind of like the perfect kind of like big ass stout. This is beautiful, man.
I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, it's a tough needle to thread sometimes when you put that many intense flavors together. So I'm always a little nervous, but there can be some clashes there. But.
Yeah, this has been quite the education for me on on the different flavors that different kinds of vanilla can bring too. Because I think before this, I was probably very much like you were just describing. Like when I picture vanilla, what I'm picturing is probably Madagascar vanilla. But now I've learned that there's so many different flavors that different kinds of vanilla can bring. But to go a bit further on this, I sometimes find that vanilla in bourbon barrel aged stouts can sometimes be redundant if it's not if it's not very kind of thoughtfully applied, because I often find that vanilla is one of those flavors that a bourbon barrel aged beer that like can kind of impart without the addition of of actual vanilla. Like some bourbon barrel aged stouts will, like the barrel will impart a vanilla flavor to it, and then adding vanilla on top of that, if it's kind of not applied thoughtfully, if it's just kind of aggressive Madagascar vanilla, will kind of really just kind of overpower the natural flavors of the barrel and whatnot without giving it the kind of complexity that this one has. So like you're saying, it's a tough needle to thread. But like, whereas this one, the complexity on it is just mind blowing.
Honestly.
Yeah. I mean, like sometimes, like you also just need the right vanilla for the right beer too.
Yeah, I can see that.
So like, you know, if we had tasted this base wort and been like, I don't know, this probably doesn't need, you know, Tranilla. It's like we would have just done something else with it. Maybe we would have just gone with one of the vanillas in place of the others. Or sometimes, like I will say, like there's nothing wrong with extracts. They totally work really, really well. But if you go heavy-handed on extracts, they come off. They do come off more heavy-handed, I would say. Whereas if you're using, again, it depends on the vanilla beans to some extent, but if you're using just like vanilla beans and they're like well sourced for what you're trying to do, they should just mesh in really, really nicely. Like some of my favorite Madagascar vanilla beans, they bring what you would expect from Madagascar vanilla, like the traditional vanilla flavor. But then on top of that, there's almost like a milk chocolate flavor that comes with some of my favorite kind of like selections of those Madagascar vanilla beans that I find like impossible to replicate any other way than just getting really, really good Madagascar vanilla.
Just look at this.
And it's like that with all vanillas, honestly. But again, if the beer, like if your base beer doesn't make sense for that flavor profile, then just kind of go a different direction with it, right? Like if you have a base beer that's like, let's say that it's like a little more like roasty, leathery. It's like it might not benefit necessarily from that like confectionery, like Madagascar flavor.
Yeah.
It might make more sense for you to go towards that Tahitian, Ugandan, select something that like on the nose, you're like, that already has a bit of a leather, like dark fruit note. Throw that in there. That could probably complement it a little bit better. So like sometimes it is just kind of like marrying the two things together.
Nice.
Just figuring out what you're working with.
Yeah, it's fascinating, man, because I feel like it's like when you learn about the variants in the vanilla world, like it kind of sounds simple, oh, you know, vanilla stout, whatever. Like,
put some vanilla in it.
This is fucking vanilla, bro. Like, yo, but there's
it can be, but
it can be,
how crazy you want to get about it.
Let's be real. Like, if you've got, like, do you know off the top of your head how many different types of vanilla there are from like different countries or whatever it is?
I honestly don't.
Like, it sounds like at least half a dozen, 6 to 10.
Definitely, I was to say, yeah, there's definitely over 6. I don't know if there's more than 10, but like
Tahitian,
maybe, right?
Mexican, Uganda.
Like I know of
sort of Indonesian
good ones.
Okay, so
100%.
Okay, so then vanilla is deeper than the vast majority of people could ever imagine. It Absolutely. Is, and it's more expensive than most people imagine it is, and
it's definitely expensive.
Definitely expensive, and the expressions of the different types of vanilla and then the combinations of such really is where the complexity comes in a beer like this. And, you know, once again, you've got 1, 2, and 3 year old barrels, and then you're sort of blending them together. So you're trying to find the perfect base beer, and then you are conditioning that base beer on a blend again of vanilla beans from different countries that are going to add some flavors and also draw out some flavors, I imagine, from that sort of base beer, whether it's things you intended or not, because maybe you don't know how it's going to react. And then there's the oak and bourbon.
Not exactly how it's going to react, exactly.
So
there's different ways of adding them too, where you get different results.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so it's kind of like, think of it like going back to like hops, like the way you add your hops you can get different character. You know, if you add them at a colder temperature, you agitate them, don't agitate them, time of exposure. So if you dry hop for 1 day versus 7 days or anything in between, you're going to get like a different extraction profile from the exact same hop otherwise, right? Same general idea with vanilla. It's like, what temperature are you adding them? Are you going to recirculate over them? How long are you going to leave them on there? Are you going to agitate them? Are you going to blend them up? Are you going to puree them? Are you going to, you know, just split them, throw them in, scrape them out, soak, whatever, right? Like there's like a million different ways of processing them. And ultimately, it's kind of like up to you what you prefer. Some of it might just come down to labor. Some of it might be straight up like a flavor preference for you. We typically like to basically puree our vanilla beans and then throw them in because I find that has a really good extract. I find if you just split them, you don't get as much, like you get pretty good, but I just find you just get less per bean. And then we also sort of sorry. They're expensive as shit.
Milk that shit. It's like $20 like, a bean or something like that, or is that a bit much?
I don't know. It's like $400 a pound.
Okay, so that's a lot.
It's a lot.
It seems like a lot.
Like, I mean, a pound of hops is, you know, like $20. So
just to put that in, I'm glad you said that just for context for people who, you know, if you see a vanilla stout or something like that, some sort of beer with vanilla in it, like and that beer is expensive, then understand why that beer is expensive.
Yeah.
Like we didn't make any extra money by putting vanilla in this. We just added the, roughly speaking, exact cost of the vanilla per bottle that we packaged to cover the cost.
Right. So you weren't making money on the vanilla.
Like there's $2 per bottle in it, and we'd put $2 on top of Inky. That's all we did.
That's it.
Right.
I mean, that's like, incredibly generous.
On it.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Like, I don't want to push it up too, because like we put a lot of vanilla in it. I don't want to, again, push it up too high that it becomes just
untenable.
Untenable, exactly.
If you listen to episode 160, Troy breaks this down in detail as far as the cost of beer, just to let people know.
Cost of beer. That's right. And like, don't get me wrong, like we will have some beers in the future that are going to be more expensive than this one. And that's because we're going to do some things that we know cost a lot of money, and we're going to have to at some point charge an amount of money that represents that cost. And if it doesn't, you know, sell well, then we just won't do it again. Or if it sells good enough, then we'll keep it up. But, you know, like doing something like we want to do like some double barrel releases where we go with, you know, like a beer in one barrel, move it into another, and we have that going right now. So, but like those beers are going to cost quite a lot of money, obviously, because they're
people will pay. Trust me, the Quebec motherfuckers will hit me up, be like, "Can you get me 12 bottles of that beer?" That's what's going to happen.
Craig's basically going to be supplying the province.
Nate, you already know what I'm
double
talking
barrel
about.
Beers.
I do.
I do. Probably need to be like somewhere in that $28 to $30 range,
easily,
for us to want to do it again.
Not even blinking at that.
That's the thing. I'm like, I feel like if we can't sell it for that, then we just probably shouldn't do it. So it's not going to be ready anytime soon, honestly. But when it is, it's probably going to be in that range because it's so much money. Just the 2 barrels alone is like we're closing in on $1,000 depending on the barrels we're using. Like we have one right now where we went from it's like I think it's a 7-year Heaven Hill into a Henry McKenna, which is like their premium line. So we went from like their low line to their high line for the double barrel. But like the low line, whatever Heaven Hill is like $400 like landed here maybe for a barrel. And then like the Henry McKennas are like 5 or 6, right? And then it's going to take still probably almost 2 years because it's like minimum kind of 10 to 12 months in each barrel. So by the time this shit comes out, it's going to be like 2 and a bit years old. we're going to have been through 2 different barrels. One's like the low end or like the stock bourbon by Heaven Hill, and one's like their most premium release. And there's just no way to like not pass along that cost.
No, I understand.
Otherwise, we can only do it once every 5 years.
Yeah, and I think people are willing to pay. I found out unintentionally the other day that I have a stout in my cellar from Other Half that was aged in Pappy barrels.
Oh, sick.
I didn't know I had that shit. And I was like, no, it was on the Third Moon pod. And they told me, I was like, they had it in a share, a bottle share or something. And I was like, fuck off, I have a full bottle of that. And I didn't know. I just got it because it was I got it on my first trip a year ago since going to the States since COVID. And they happened to have it at Other Half Buffalo, and Bebo and Chris was like, yo, that was the one that was in Pappy. And I was like, I had no idea, but it was the only one that they had that wasn't a pastry. And I wanted a straight up and down bourbon barrel aged stout because that's my favorite shit. The only other thing aside from that I really love is the vanilla, such as this one. And I feel like it's like harder to get. So yeah, I can understand that. It's like
pretty hard to get these days.
Yeah, I just feel like there's not that many beers that I have, even just looking at my cellar when I put stuff in the fridge to be like, yeah, let me just get them in there for when I'm ready, that they're not some sort of pastry, you know, whether, and it's not crazy pastry, but like coconut nuts, vanilla, whatever. Nothing like it's super insane, but like enough that it's, you know, sometimes you just want a straight up and down bourbon barrel aged stout. And, you know,
and
it's...
that to be clear, is what the majority of our program moving forward is going to be. Is
amazing.
Mostly straight up and down bourbon barrel aged stouts, and like definitely there's going to be some vanilla because like I said, I'm obsessed with vanilla.
Run that.
But other than that, there's not going to be vanilla. Like it rocks,
bro.
It's
how
so
can
cool.
You get mad at this?
I've just scratched.
Disgusting.
That's it. I'm like, I've just scratched the surface on what vanilla, you know, can be about, and I'm really looking forward to going deeper on it.
It's so
like,
glorious.
As much as I love those, like, you know, cacao nib, coconut, all those, I'm like, one a year maybe for us would be plenty. And even then, I'm like, I don't even know if I would do that many. We'll kind of feel it out. If there's a beer that feels like it deserves that, then we'll definitely do it.
Run that, yeah.
But yeah, we're not.
They have a place.
Same as in like the rest of our lineup. We're really just about 4 ingredients for the most part, which is water, hop, small yeast.
Gotcha.
That's just, and that's the way we kind of roll with all our beers. I'm like, I just like those ingredients for the most part, and I think there's just a lot there, honestly.
Truly,
there is,
and
there truly is.
Exactly, a lot of levers to pull on. And when you go to stout, technically we're adding another ingredient, which is the barrel, and then you throw in something like vanilla, and I'm like, well, I've just added 50% more base ingredients. So like I've got like a lifetime worth of things to explore here, and I'm not even close to being done with it. So you know, we'll probably do, again, I would never say never, like we'll do something in that, like the Barn Cat Collab had hazelnuts in it, so we had like 2 vanilla hazelnut. So I'm like, that for us was a lot. Or we did the breakfast out for Breakfast Club last year.
That was great.
Vanilla coffee, maple syrup. Yes. That's the most pastry we've done so far. But
that was pretty,
you know, like something like that. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm like, for something like that where it's like, oh, special occasion. Yeah, of course we'll do something for that. But when we're pulling barrels probably on our own, like they're gonna be primarily just like bourbon barrel aged stouts, sometimes with different vanillas that we're stoked on. The same way that you look at the rest of our lineup and you're like, that's just a lager, that's just an IPA. What's changing is the way they're constructed, basically.
You know what? For like of all of of the beers that I've tasted, and of course there's many people who have tasted more beers than I have, but I remember straight up and down bourbon barrel aged imperial stouts more than I remember in pastry. More than I remember pastry stouts.
Say it again.
Yeah.
Say it again. Nothing wrong with pastries, man. Pastries are fucking incredible.
Oh, I'm not knocking them.
Simple. Sometimes simple is better. No.
Knocking
Nobody's
them,
knocking them.
Really not knocking them at all. There's a time, there's a time and place for all of it. I fuck with that shit.
Heavy.
I fuck with that. But I remember a straight up, really, really top notch bourbon barrel age Russian Imperial Stout. Like that. That one will stick out in my mind way more, guaranteed.
Yeah. I agree, and that's going to continue to be your focus, is just making just these great bases, basically. Where we're just trying to put the fewest amount of ingredients together and let those things shine. Like I said, same conceptual kind of like construction of beer as the rest of our lineup, where we always keep it simple. That doesn't mean we can't do other things. It's just the majority of our lineup's never going to go that direction. At least while I'm brewing beer. If things change, then, whatever. But while I am making the beer, it's probably going to be like the overwhelming majority is going to be just stout and vanilla. And that's just because I think that I have years worth of stuff left to look at there. So I don't even want to start looking at different types of cocoa. You know what I mean? It's like that's going to be another 5 years of exploration,
right? Or coconuts,
one step at a time.
Or nuts, yeah. Like that's even the more chill adjuncts, as opposed to like Thai banana or cherries or blah blah blah. Yeah, like
sure. Yeah, of course.
Like they all have their. I feel like everything has their place. It seemed like pastries kind of took over the scene. That's kind of maybe where we were coming from. Was pastries were everywhere, and then that. Whilst they're still impeccable, and I fucking love a pastry stout, and it seems like all three of us do as well, like there's something to be said about just a simple, straightforward bourbon barrel aged stout or a BBA stout with some vanilla, just simple vanilla. And it's like, it's almost like you said, your IPAs at I don't even want to call them simple because I feel like they're far from it, but I guess they are straightforward, that you've got this beautiful base recipe and you just change the hops and sometimes change the malts and stuff like that. So it's
they are simple. That's the whole point. They're 4 ingredients, and like our IPAs. I mean, our stout base is more complicated than I would like it to be, but I don't think I can simplify it anymore. Like I generally, as a rule, I'm like, I don't like using more than, my goal is always like no more than 2 malts, like 3 at most type thing. But for stouts, I'm like, I can't really get away with that. Like you kind of need 4 for the way that we make
to
stouts.
Make it happen.
So
gotcha.
Yeah. Like you need like your roast malt, you have your base malt, a caramel, and then you may need 1 more in there. Is kind of like we have like a wheat stout, for example, and I'm like, well, then the wheat becomes the 4th, or we might put in like like a mid-range chocolate malt or something like that, or a mid and a low caramel malt or crystal malt. So it's hard. Like you can do 3 recipe or 3 ingredient ones, but we end up almost always using 4, which is again, I like to keep it simple.
Okay, and would you?
It's just a self-imposed restriction. I'm just like, keep it simple. You don't need to, like, one of the things you'll see a lot with like a lot of home brewers is you'll look at a homebrew recipe and there's just like fucking 8 malts to make something, and you're like, these don't need to be here. Like sometimes more is less.
That's too many.
More is too much.
Many malts. And I'm not talking about a stout specifically. I'm talking like you could be like 8 ingredients for like an IPA, and you're like, this is just too many base. Like you don't need to have 2 different base malts, 2 different or 3 different oats, 2 different wheats. It's just like choose what you like and kind of like work it in. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure they make great beer with that stuff, but for me, I'm like, in all our beers, I'm like, the fewer the ingredients, the better, because I'm like, I want ideally the ingredients we've chosen to be the stars of the show. And if you start putting in too much stuff, then no one really gets to be the star. It's just kind of like a wall, and that's fine too. Like it could be a really, really nice wall. But I just find it more interesting when you have all these like simple ingredients shining.
I like that. And that makes a ton of sense, particularly like the IPA stuff. Like if you're looking at like the base malts, I've done some home brewing like many years ago, so I understand the base of what you're saying. And like it's like almost everything in life, like simple is better. is like as we're getting older, what you kind of realize is just simple as like pick the best shit, run with that, boom. And and this is,
it's arguably harder too, right? That's the thing,
because you got to pick those simple things, and there's multiple simple things. Yeah,
there's a lot of work in keeping it simple, which is again why I think I've chosen to go that route. Is it's harder, but I think better, and like those two things aren't always compatible. Like harder isn't always better, and better isn't always harder. But in this particular case, I do think that's the case where I'm like, if you give, like you said, all the best things usually are the simplest, easiest kind of sort of to understand. But if you complicate it, it's not better almost ever.
It's it's a great point. I feel like I've noticed that as I've gotten older, that the simplest solutions to anything in life, whether it's like anything, literally anything, kind of make the most sense. Like just breaking it down to that bare, like minimum, like, all right, what do we need? And these are the things we need. Boom, let's run with that. And that tends to work out better.
Yep. Yeah. And everyone's usually happier at the end too. But it is hard to break it down like that too. That's kind of the cool thing. It's almost like, I don't want to say it's reductionist, but to some extent it's like, just break it down to what the lowest, I don't know, not the lowest common denominator. I'm not even really sure what the word I'm looking for is, but it's just the things that you want to be there rather than just having, like this, think of it like a party, like invite all your friends. You're like, yeah, but like, who do you want to be there? Like who are you going to talk to at that party? You know what I'm saying? And when
like
you get
there
older,
might be
you
a small subset
a
of 5 that you really want there.
Yeah. Like you probably only want a few people there. So those are the people you're going to hang out with. It's kind of the same deal. You're like, just bring who you want to spend the whole night with, and you're going to love it.
That resonates so strong, man. I feel like as I've gotten older, I've gotten like more, what's the word? Pickier about the circle and who you want to spend time with. And like, so that is that's such a cool, like fucking, like example of like how to approach this. Like, where do you want to be around? What do you want to be around? Who do you want to be around? And the same thing comes with flavor profiles. So it's like the same thing with the humans. Like, at the end of the day, we all don't want to be around everybody. It's just not. It's not. What's the word? Plausible. You don't want to be around everybody, and you're going to want to be around a certain amount of people. So then, when it comes to the flavors, like you don't want to have all this mishmash of flavors. You want to have like a very specific few flavors to achieve a goal. I like that.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly
as I've gotten older, I just want to hang out with, I would rather have more direct, smaller hangouts as opposed to going to a party with 30 people 100%. In the room. Like, I didn't really give a shit. Because what, you're going to talk to all 30 people? Probably not. So what's the point?
There's only so much time in a night.
Yeah. And like, as a kid, you're like, yeah, cool, whatever. It's like a vibe as everyone's around. But as you get older, you're like, I don't fuck with that. I just want to like, communicate and engage with the smaller amount of people, and I like that. That really resonates. Maybe because I'm the oldest out of the three of us, and I feel like
maybe there's a 20-year-old listening, and they're like, I don't get.
I didn't get it, bro.
The losers are saying.
Losers. Oh, I see that guy's got gray in his beard. Boo. You're gonna be the youngest. Hey, you don't have to say it right now, but you're like, I think you're significantly younger than maybe we thought you were. Because I never thought about.
I'm 32.
Oh, you're a child. I love that.
Yeah, I'm 37 and Craig's 42.
Yeah, you guys are older than me. I mean, when I started in the industry,
you got no great. I love it. Good for you.
I was by far the youngest guy around almost everywhere because we started the brewery when I was 24. And
that's
I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest of the three of us. So
yeah. I mean, dude, that's amazing. That, like, look, I'm gonna be honest. I know some fucking 24-year-olds, and they're not gonna do. You just did right now. I have the utmost respect because your maturity and knowledge about things and breadth of life experience from the brewery to the military and all the things that you've done. I never want, like, I'm going to be honest, Nate and I were talking today, and he was like, yo, I think Troy's mad young, bro. And I was like, I never thought about it.
He doesn't have any gray hairs yet. It's so
weird. He's like, what's going on?
It's just you made a like I was listening to episode 160 today, and you made a comment about being 24 when the brewery started in 2017, and I'm doing the math. I'm like, holy shit! I think Troy's only 32 years old. I feel fucking old now.
Yeah, and Nate's like 6 years younger than me, and we didn't. He mentioned that, and I was like, "Yo, I never even thought about it because the maturity of the things that you're talking about from the last pod, and then from the pod that we had a month ago when we're talking about all of this. How is you 10 years younger than me teaching me about fucking money? I'm like, this is crazy." But now it all kind of makes sense. You just like ahead of the game, and I gotta kind of respect that like 10x, man. Like it's fucking.
Oh my god, so much.
It's
so
even
much.
doper that you've able to make. Look, my favorite beer potentially in the whole wide world, and also be able to teach us about economic fucking what's the word, like the way that things work
in inflation and like in economics and like in all of this
on a deeper level. It's very, very cool when it kind of like increases the respect. It's not like, oh, Troy's just fucking, what'd you say, 32?
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ. Like Troy, the fucking
it's mad respect, man. It really is.
It's mad respect. Like it's so much respect that it's like, yo, that you're a prodigy. That's incredible, and you deserve all the success and more that you're getting, dude. Like it's even cooler to me. It just never crossed my mind literally until today when Nate pointed that out, because I never thought about it. I always saw you as about my age, to be honest.
Thanks, man.
And I was like,
I don't know if take that as a compliment or to think you, or maybe you think I look old, which
no, you don't look old. That was the problem.
How dare you?
I was like, how dare you? You disgust me. I thought we were friends. Fuck you. I'm deleting your number.
Okay,
like,
Dick, I need a new face cream or something.
I got some recommendations, don't worry. It was more, I just feel like when you're talking to me about this stuff, it just never even crossed my mind. That was all.
You speak with the education and life experience of someone 10 years older than you.
Thank you very much. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
Nate is much more.
That's very kind of you to say.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
That's why our story is the way it is, right? We none of us had money. We were too young when we started the brewery. We didn't have anything. We didn't have any.
Equity,
money. We really didn't
experience.
Have true experience. We didn't work at other breweries. It was one of those things where I'd done enough work. I'd been working my whole life. I started working when I was 13. While I was also an athlete, still training 8 to 10 times a week. So I was doing in school and all that shit. So I was I'd done a lot of work still. And I was at one point, I was just I don't want to work for people anymore. I'm just going
to
try to start a business doing something I wanted to do, which was brewing, and just basically make up for the lack of money in labor. And that's literally what the only way we could make it work. But it took so long to make it work, because we started I don't know if I've ever told a story on this podcast, but we started the whole brewery for $70,000, which is not enough money.
No, it doesn't sound like enough.
It's nowhere near enough money. But if you do all the work, top to bottom on everything, and then slowly add as you go, then you can start to kind of grow from there. And we've had to obviously take on more debt and stuff like that moving forward. But basically for the first 4 years, we were just doubling sales until we got to a size that finally we could take it to a bank and buy a real brewery. But if you had asked me to do that today, I'm not doing it. It was a time and place thing that I think, yeah, I don't know. Try to put myself in my own shoes back then. I'm like, I was young and hungry, and I wanted to get out of what I was doing and do what I'm doing today, which I'm internally grateful has worked out. And, shout out to anyone who's listening right now, still at this point, this far on, that may not have bought our beer at some point, but like, they're the ones truly who gave us the opportunity to do this. Because we didn't have the money. It was truly like the weekly cash flow of people that to this day continue to buy our beer. And it's still, again, it's just 3 of us that do all of the back end work. It's myself, Mike, and Grace, same as it ever was. We do sometimes still have people that help in the front. Like we have Adam who sent in that question. We have like Betty who helps us a good amount. We have a few bartenders basically that help us out in the summer mostly. And that's actually new as of last year. But for like 5-6 years, like we literally did every job, and we still work the bar. We still do everything. Like I still do. Like I have a tap takeover tomorrow at Hungry Brew Hops. I'll be there. Like I answer emails for everything. We still do all the social media. So to this day, we're still a very lean business that does not take anything for granted because we can't. We don't know anything else. We don't have the money. We didn't just like walk into this debt free and we're like, nice, who cares what happens? It's like this is the blood, sweat, and tears. It's this is it. This is all we have. So I'm happy we do. I'm happy people like it. And yeah, that's why we started it so young, because I don't think I literally could have, if I was my age now. I don't think I could have made it. I would have needed more money.
I feel that. And it's like you kind of have that youthful exuberance to like almost not give a fuck to a degree.
Yeah. You have to be dumb enough to not know,
Like, but there's something about your approach, to be honest. Like I had no idea. And I feel like I'm a little, what's the word? Like sensitive? No, that's not the word. Like aware of people's ages as I'm getting older. I'm like, okay, I'm dealing with someone who's at this age, and like then the expectations of what I expect of that person would come out, and I never saw that in you at all. And like literally a few weeks ago you were here and I just never thought about it like at all, like because there's such a maturity of information that personally I never like had. I didn't understand that stuff, and I don't know whatever the fuck it is, man. But like, you're making some sort of genius magic Harry Potter shit going on here with all of the things that you've got going on. It's just impeccable. And I told you to you, like, bro, every time I go anywhere in the States, and I love it, but I hate it. But I go everywhere, I'm like, oh, fuck, Badlands is better, man. Fuck. Every single time. And I was there on Friday. I was in Buffalo on Friday, and I had the same thing. And it's cool to explore, but it's like it's even more beautiful to know that you've got.
And Craig and I talk. Yeah, Craig and I talk about this all the time, because anytime either of us goes to the States, we usually share something with each other, and it's a case of maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, shit that we would have brought back from the States might have blown our minds a little more, more
pre-pandemic, say 2020
yeah.
even.
Yeah, sure. Or like 2018, 2019, you go to other half, you got you go to go to Trillium, might have blown your fucking mind. But and it's not that I don't enjoy going down to the States and trying what's there right now, but like it just doesn't blow my mind the way that it used to. And all that means is that like what we've got back home, and like on the in the small handful of breweries, of the top tier breweries, of which Badlands we really consider to be among the top tier, it's like, easily. Man, we've got it fucking good here right now.
Impeccably so.
I appreciate the kind words, gentlemen. That's nice of you to say. I mean,
do you see it that way?
Yeah.
From someone who's making it? Like, do you understand what we're talking about, or are you humble enough to be like, oh no, like we're cool, man? Like, you know what I mean? Are you aware of the sheer insane quality of what it is that you're doing, or like, because I know you get probably same, people come through and bring you stuff, or you travel, and I know you've gone and worked with Mortalis and the homies out there and stuff like that. Like, are you aware, or do you still think there's like work to do or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, honestly.
I mean, like honestly, I think there's definitely still work to do on our end. Like, I'm glad. I'm very, very humbled. I'm really, really glad you guys like the beer that much, and I'm just genuinely glad most people that come through like the beer that much. But I do think there's always stuff to improve on, and we are still working on it day to day. There's little stuff here and there that we could definitely still keep going on. I am genuinely right now, like I'm at a place where I am happy with our beer, and I have been for like probably a good year now, where I've been like drinking our beer and I'm happy. And like I said, I'm a home brewer, so I started out as making beer for myself, and I am my own harshest critic. So I want to make sure that I actually enjoy my beer, and that's why I said, like, if I don't like it, there's a true problem, because like, I do drink my own beer. That's how I started making beer. It's like, you cook food for yourself. You're like, yeah, it's fucking shit. Like, then do better next time. Same general idea. I'm like, I enjoy my own beer, and if I don't enjoy it, then we're in a tough place. So, but I do still think there's like there's a lifetime left of work for me, I think, which is part of the reason I really like what I do. Is one, I enjoy the raw mechanics of making beer, but there are so many things left for me to work on that I will never be done. And I hope that I can basically just keep making beer and keep trying to make it as good as possible with, whatever ingredients we get on a year-to-year basis, and then slowly continue to obsess further and further on things as I'm afforded the opportunity to do so. And as long as people keep wanting to drink the beer, then we're going to be afforded the opportunity to keep trying to make it better and better every week, which is, for me, like, that's always been the goal. And I've never been shy about saying it. I'm like, I hope, if you loved whatever beer it was last week, I'm like, I hope, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, 10 weeks from now, the beer's better.
Fuck, man. It's this is really cool to hear you talk about this shit, and I feel like it's always better. Every week I grab this up, I'm like, oh man, this, like, I couldn't even tell you the last, like, that's even like, well, it's cool. Like, it's not even like, it's never that. It's like, this is that's fucking good. Insane. Every time I'm not like,
I'm glad.
I probably would be I'd probably be aggressive in telling you, but like, Troy, what the fuck happened? Like, it's that.
And I'm here for that, because every now and then we take some risks. I don't think you would. So
yeah,
like, I expect to hear it every now and then, but
I don't think you would be precious about it. And I think you would be very receptive. But I know, Nate, I don't know about you, bro, but like, I have not tasted anything since I've known you, since I've been following what you're doing, that has been even remotely close to like, yeah, it's cool. Everything has been, oh fuck, this is crazy. Every time. And it's to the point where it's difficult, and I tell Chris and Duran this, it's difficult to want to expand my horizons haziologically, when I know I can get what the fuck I want. Do you like that one?
That was really good.
Like, why would I go and try too much more when I can get exactly what I want every single time with this brand? It's just so insane.
It's hard to branch out sometimes. Sometimes.
That's quite literally the highest compliment that anyone can give, really. If someone's like, look, I trust you to make the thing that I like consistently. That is, you're hitting on all the things that we're trying to do, and basically, if that's the case for you and the average consumer, then my job is to make sure that we keep you there. And it's easier said than done, but rest assured, I will continue to work at it nonstop. And if it falls out of that for a bit, it'll get back. but I'm glad it hasn't.
We trust you.
We trust you impeccably, and it's like you've never let us down, man. And it's just, it's look. I'm gonna be honest. It's a really cool place of for people like Nate and I. We can go to the States, like we can brag confidently and be like, yeah, this shit is cool. But if you have Badlands, have you had fucking Badlands? Or you haven't had you need to fucking have Badlands. You go to Canada, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's really beautiful to be able to brag about our backyard and be like, this is the benchmark of what is this style wherever you are in the world. Like, I would challenge anybody. And look, I gotta put this probably on blast now, and I feel like it's okay for us to say this, Nate, because I feel like I talked to this dude privately, and I think he might have said it publicly, but I talked to Bebo at Third Moon, and one time on our Chinwag, which was our Instagram live that we did in 2020, 21, maybe 22 to a bit. And Bebo used to always like tune in. And he said when he wasn't on there, but he was like, in the comments, he was like, oh, I get, because he's from Chicago and he's running Third Moon, which is one of the best fucking breweries in Canada easily, as one of your close friends too, Troy. He was like, Badlands make the best haze in the world. And I feel like it was maybe about a month ago, and it was a Saturday night, and I was high as dog shit, and I was drunk, and he messaged me for some reason. I can't remember what it was, and we were talking on Facebook Messenger, and I was like, hey man, let me ask you, it's been about a year and a half since the last time I asked you this. You said publicly that Badlands was the best haze in the world. What do you think right now is in January 2024? And he reiterated, Badlands is the best haze in the world. And
he's the nicest fucking guy.
Isn't Bebo's the fucking best?
That guy. He's so nice.
He's the fucking best. We all love it. I've never seen a human being to even said maybe the slightest negative thing about that gentleman. He was the fucking best. And I very much...
It's a high compliment, man. He's got a good palate, and they make amazing beers. So
he knows his shit.
He knows
his shit.
That's what I mean.
You guys are neck and neck.
Again, it's yeah. No, it's humbling. I really, Thank you, Bebo. That's really kind.
He's a beautiful man, and like I agree. I feel like Third Moon and Badlands are neck and neck every single time. And like for him to say that, who tries, I don't know about, maybe because of where he is and because he's from Chicago, so he has people come through. He travels, people give him shit, whatever. And that's what he said. So I was like, all right, I feel like that holds some weight. And it feels like
there's no question.
It feels like to the three of us that's a fact. And I confidently brag about it all the time. And it's just really cool, man. I just feel like, haze is the one thing. And obviously tonight we drank 4 different styles, where last time we drank 1 different style. So, single IPA, double IPA. This time it's like, crispy IPA. We got some Saison. We got some Stout to show that Badlands is a multiple trick pony that
we're still like 90-something percent IPA, but
the IPA doesn't even let you down even once ever. Don't even think about it. But it's really cool to know that the brewery that won't let you down with IPAs is going to be able to take care of you in all these other styles. I think that's a beautiful thing. And
yep. And one day we'd like to be able to do it slightly more styles as well, but we probably won't diversify too much more in the immediate future until we have
more tanks.
Probably more tanks, and then probably just like a better like tap room setup, which
it is pretty cool though.
It is a cool setup. I really like. Yeah. I like what we got going on. Don't get me wrong, but it is
restrictive.
Still like a half measure. It is very restrictive.
Gotcha.
We wouldn't be able to be open more than we're only open in the winter 10 hours a week, right? So it's not that much. I would like to have a proper building with a proper kitchen and maybe some staff. That would be cool. And then we would maybe be able to do a few different things on site, but there's no immediate opportunity to do anything of that nature. So for the time being, what we have right now is I'm very, very happy with what we can do, but one day, hopefully we can take care of a couple more. I'll be honest, it'd probably be classic styles that we would take care of, because I really like
red ales,
styles.
bit of brownies. Bit of porters.
You got it, buddy.
Yeah, your porter.
As we're kind of throwing this into the ether here, I got a question for you, and you can answer this in one word if you want, or if there's a more complicated answer, that's fine too. Will we ever see a Badlands barley wine?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, right. I'm fucking excited for that.
Yeah,
there it is.
Yes.
It's on the list of things to do. I haven't had the time or space to commit to it yet, but definitely we're within this decade for sure. There will be some barrel-aged barley wines.
Okay, well, I'm waiting anxiously for that.
I'm waiting for that.
I gave myself a lot of room to run there.
That's fair. That's fair.
I gave myself 6 full years to produce a barley wine.
That's fair.
It'll probably be sooner than that, but I don't want to make promises I can't keep. So that's why I chose within this.
I respect
by
that.
2030 for sure.
I respect that. Give yourself a long runway, but I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we took a long time to get the Stout program going. The barley wine one wouldn't be nearly the size that the Stout one is, so it'll be a little bit easier to start. I gotta tell you,
with the Stout, it was worth the wait. So I'm
good. I'm glad.
I'm excited
but
for the.
Now that we're at that point where I'm like, I think we're at a management size for our Stout program now. We should be able to get a barley wine out,
or a barley wine Stout blend.
A barley wine started, because there's a couple other projects I want to go. Like another one that I think most people probably wouldn't care about, but I want to do is like a Belgian quad, both in bourbon and port barrels. It's been on my list of things to do forever, basically. That one's even further down the list than the barley wines, so that one might be like by more than within the decade. But it's one of those things that it's like, okay, once we tackle the barley wine, then that might come up after.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I would like to have that done. Barley wine, I'm like, it's actually on the radar now, so we're getting closer than, like, if you had asked me 2 years ago, I'm like, yep, at some point. Luck. But now I'm like, no, like, I'm trying to actively find a way to do it, and that means that it'll happen within the next couple of years type thing.
Okay, I'm excited for that.
Here for it. Even those like barley wine Stout blends that have been happening a bunch lately. Awesome. They're fucking great, and that's like an easier way, maybe without the barley wine sitting there for a couple of years, you better get like, here's one, a bit of this, bit of that type of thing, and
you got it.
It's like a whole new style. But dude, this is fucking amazing. What can the folks expect, at least for 2024, being that we're recording this in late February 2024? What could people expect for the rest of the year from Badlands?
So for the rest of the year, they can expect more of the same, honestly. A lot of hoppy beers. We've got some really cool stuff planned for the rest of 2024. We're almost done with our last year's selections. So starting in June 1st specifically, we're going to have our select event this year. And I don't exactly know what beers or the quantity of beers yet. Again, don't want to make promises I can't keep. But we are looking to do a sizable event that I think will be, from a beer perspective for sure, even more exciting than last year. And then we have our anniversary in August. I think it's August 17th. Again, don't have anything planned really collaboration wise or anything like that, but that's usually a good time. But yeah, you can continue to expect us to pump out a bunch of good beers, a bunch of different hops. I have most of the schedule already planned out, and I'm pretty excited about what's coming out. So I think you're probably going to see more New Zealand hops over the coming years from us. We've been transitioning some older hops that I think they're still good, but there's just better hops out there now. We're transitioning kind of the less intense hops out and some of the newer ones in. And I think our lineup is going to improve as a result. And there's not a ton of like necessarily totally new brands coming out, but the way that we think of our beers every year is like they're a new opportunity to make those beers better. And usually we find these core recipes have tons of life in them. So we're excited to get back to releasing some of these beers that we released last year or the year before, or something like Gamma that we haven't done in 4 years. Like, I haven't even brewed it yet, but I'm really excited because I feel like the ingredients that we have locked and loaded for this beer are going to make it what I want for the first time since I think 2020. So it's been a minute since we've made this one. And I'm just excited about being able to do stuff like that.
Fuck yes, dude. So there's a bunch of really fun, interesting stuff. Obviously, what you would expect, plus some also like different type of shit coming up in 2024.
Yeah. We have some cool hop experiments and stuff coming up. You know, you keep an eye on like our Instagram website, wherever we post about our stuff. You'll see. We usually try to be so Badlands Brewing.
There we go.
Is everything except for Twitter/X, which is Badlands Brew Co. Badlandsbrewing.ca as well. Keep an eye on that. We always try to put a ton of information, as much as kind of I can reasonably put into a somewhat coherent post for what we're working with, why I think it's cool, whatever. And we have some kind of unique ingredients and stuff coming up over the coming months too. So, you know, if you're into that kind of thing, read the labels. If you're not, just enjoy it then.
Whatever it is. Dude, this is awesome. Man, this is great. I really appreciate it. Do we need to take a screenshot, Nate? Are we doing that still? We should do it just in case.
I don't know. I mean, you tell me. I mean, we don't use it on IG anymore, but unless it shows up in the vlog posts.
She's on the blog post. You know what? Fuck it. We took a picture of Troy last time we came over.
Yeah,
I'm good to go.
I think we're all set.
Troy's all set. But like, honestly, bro, thank you so much for spending the time. I know it's like late and you boys both have to get up extraordinarily early, but
it's been such a pleasure. It's worth it.
It's so dope. This has been
every 2 years, you know?
Yeah, but we're going to do it more often. I feel like I'd like to do it every year, really, is what we wanted to do. It's just like Nate and I were sort of getting our shit together, and we realized that, like, yo, it's been 2 years. Fucking hell. Just time flew. And
it flies.
It really does. But this has been really cool just to see the difference of what's been happening since the last time we chatted and what's been going on now. And it's just impeccable and just keeps getting better, dude. And like, we couldn't be larger fans if we tried. So like, just thank you for everything you're contributing to craft beer. I really think it's like genuinely important. And I feel like you are the epitome of Canadian craft beer and everything that you're doing. And just please keep doing that shit, man. It's beautiful, and you're making us proud. It makes us really, I can go anywhere in the world and be like, yo, fucking try this. Like, put that against your best, because this is our best, and it makes me really, really proud. So thank you. Keep striving, keep being 32, and fucking just
at some point I'm going to be 33 here, so
well, maybe we'll get there. Maybe you could be 33 and just dominating. I believe in you. I truly believe. It's incredible, man. Just thank you so much for the time and just for hanging out.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
It means a lot, and I know the audience really loves it too, and that people, you've really created a beautiful brand that people really fuck with, and it's really cool to see, and just keep it. I'm excited to just keep watching it grow, and let's connect around this time next year and just keep doing it annually. I think that would be even doper.
Yeah.
It's just great. Thank you for your time, Troy, man. I really appreciate you, bro. And all of these things. It's just so cool to see you go from like fucking incredible haze and just this beautiful, like the crispies and then the saisons, which is extra new to me and Nate, and then the stouts, which it's beautiful. Just thank you, man.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
You're the man. So guys, make sure once again it's at Badlands Brewing on Instagram.
Badlands Brewing on everything except for Twitter, which is Badlands Brew Co.
And badlandsbrewing.com.
Badlandsbrewing.ca. Actually, I think probably .com too.
Probably both. I imagine you would.
Did I buy that domain? No one knows.
You know what? If you didn't, then don't fucking do it, because Troy's going to go get it. All right? Don't be a dickhead. Let Troy go get it. If he didn't, okay? Just be cool. Let him fucking get it.
Just be chill.
Just be chill and just go buy some beer.
What the hell? It's a $3,000 domain. I'm not buying that.
I
just looked it up as we were talking here.
Oh my god!
Never mind. I'm not
no,
buying
thank you. No, thank you.
Nobody's buying that.
Probably why I don't. That's
you can buy a lot of hops with that.
Exactly. A lot of hops. Stick on the. We'll say goodbye afterwards. But Nathaniel, where can everyone find you online, sir?
Absolutely everywhere at NathanDoesBeer.
You're damn right. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit that notification bell.
Ding.
So you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast. And check out the long form audio so you can hear attractive, legendary gentlemen like Uncle Troy talk about craft beer. We are here every week at BAOS Podcast everywhere. Spotify, Apple. You know what? Apple Podcast, give us 5 stars. Give us 5 stars for Troy. Give us 5 stars for this beautiful Stout. Give us 25 stars. Give us 863 stars. That's how many stars you want to give. Because we're out here. We've been here nearly 9 years. There's 9 years in April. Are you fucking kidding me? Name another motherfucker who's been here for 9 years. We out here supporting. That's a lot of years. That's a lot of years. See, Troy said it. And if you love Troy, then you're going to love this. He said he may. I'm not going to say anymore. And with that, we'll see you in the next episode, legends. Peace, y'all. Cheers.
Cheers.